how are you still able to stay on track, right? Why are you guys not just overly demotivated? Why isn't it just like, fuck this shit? Because it must be pretty annoying, right?
It's a great question. We're annoyed as and we're depressed as but to be honest, for the past week, for the past 7 days, we were practicing like 2 of them, and it was with Devil Walk instead of Sunny. Because Sunny, and we're talking like we're 2 days ahead of EPL playoffs, right?
Yeah.
And Sunny tested positive on COVID on Friday. He was unable to play, had high fevers, and that's when we had to play Blast qualifier, best of ones.
Add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets, guaranteed.
Fist bumps go to the teammates.
I wanna see you falling fast. Win the round. Win the game.
Parimatch, your esports teammate.
Step right up, get your Counter-Strike hot takes here. It's HLTV Confirmed, Tuesday the 30th of March, 2021. That sounds like the future. It's Season 5, Episode 33. First and foremost, HLTV Confirmed is brought to you by Xtrfy. That's Xtrfy, xtrfy.com. Check them out for all your peripheral needs. And Parimatch, that is Pari match.com. Gamble responsibly. Anyway, on tonight's show, we got the hot seat with STYKO. You can see him. He's floating around. He's in the bubble, I guess. ESL Pro League, a bit of an update on that. Shit's been happening. All the other recent news, hasn't been a whole lot going on there, but stay tuned for that. And as usual, we have Lucas, the producer of the show. You're causing problems today, Lucas, or is everything looking okay?
Hopefully, everything will work out.
Okay. Well, I might be talking louder than normal because these in-ears are a bit more noise cancelling. So if I am, tell me to shut the fuck up. Also, it's time for... Wait, let me do this properly. It's time for STYKO's dating profile. I should have been on like 80s television. I reckon I would have killed it. Anyway, STYKO, new question this week. How would you handle conflict resolution with your partner?
I mean,
this is a real life one.
Calmly and preferably without too many emotions, and just like in a reasonable manner.
Okay, so a reasonable. All right, that's not. It's lacking a few details there.
I mean, like, what kind of a conflict is it? Like, it's obviously that's kind of like situation dependent.
Well, for example, I have a method where if arguments are kicking off, if it's not if it feels like it's a silly thing. What you do is you go up to your partner and you put your little finger in their nose, and they have to do the same thing. And if you can argue with your partner while you both have your fingers in each other's noses, then you should probably keep arguing. If not, probably not worth it. So that's my example.
I don't think I'm going to take that advice, but
okay,
it's a good insight into your life, though.
All right, you got to try weird shit. Anyway, maybe we'll check in. We'll give you a scenario. Maybe in the future I'll write some lines for Prof, and you guys can do like a conflict resolution live on the show. Don't. So that might be next week, but we'll see how we get there. All right, we got my next favorite segment. This is Prof's Corona Watch. Prof, the sun's out. What does this mean?
Obviously, not less Corona, according to statistics so far. Latest updates from Croatian scientists that claim Corona is over, saying Corona is not over, changing their opinion and saying that the spring is coming late this year, which is delaying the Corona is over phase. That's the new news from Croatia, whatever the fuck that means.
Okay.
And also Lucas probably has the Rona, so that's also fun.
Oh, okay. Lucas, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm actually very good.
Okay, well, hopefully you're all good. Anyway, I guess we'll keep this one kicking along because now we put a real sad mood in it here. Lucas may be sick. All right, let's go to the bumper and we'll get the hot seat and we'll lift the mood. All right, we are joined by the chess master, 25 years young. He likes tractors or something about a tractor. I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out. A member of the newly acquired FPX roster, FunPlus Phoenix. It's Martin STYKO. Stick. Like an actual stick.
Like a stick.
That's really easy. People can't fuck that one up. Mate,
right?
How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this conversation with you three individuals plus Lucas.
It's gonna be an interesting adventure, I'm sure, and we're probably gonna get straight into the interesting adventure. So just to give people a little bit of history, maybe they're a newer Counter-Strike fan, maybe they're not too familiar. Obviously, you had your days in mouse sports. That all finished up. We had that Cloud9 situation there as well for a little while, but in more recent history, and it doesn't feel that recent really. You did the whole NoChance thing, then you were in Smash, then the Godsent, now you're at FPX. It's been a bit of a journey. With last year, 2020, I suppose that's where we focus in on. For you, with that year getting, well, I don't want to assume anything. I guess this is a great place for you to tell us the comparison between where you were with NoChance kind of floating around to then being part of an organization again. What's the contrast like for your career at that point?
Yeah, so it's true that after I left Mousesports, which we were well-established tier 1 team before, I decided to take a little bit of a break, but it got cut short basically because I got offered to play in a NoChance. So me and Frozen basically swapped positions in Mousesports and NoChance. He went to Mousesports, I went instead of him back to NoChance, and I met new people I've never played with before, and we were playing without an organization for almost a year. It was kind of okay for me. I didn't mind for financial reasons. I was still contracted with Mousesports, so I was benched and I was playing for NoChance, and there was no issue with that. But obviously, guys were becoming pretty frustrated that we were basically playing for nothing, and the only things that we received were the prize money, which weren't big at the time anyway. So then we I think from NoChance we were doing pretty good since we made it to minor, where we beat actually Mousesports, my previous team. But in the decider game we lost to them, so they made it through and we didn't. So that was a little bit of sad. But after that summer we got into Smash, which was a project led by the duo of DJs, the brothers, Dimitri and Mike, but that project didn't last long. We were signed there for just a trial period and see how it goes. But these guys had no. Okay, I don't want to say. Okay, I'm gonna say it. These guys had no clue how to run the organization from the esports point of view. So we were really unhappy there, and things were done without our consent in that team. So that always kind of fucks you up, and you want to avoid that. So after the trial ended, we immediately got signed by Godsent, which was a Swedish organization, and Devil Walk, our coach, had good interactions with Pronax, which was part of the Godsent back then. And yeah, first tournament, basically 1 week after signing, we won that tournament in Kiev. So that was one of the last lands we attended before the pandemic hits. And throughout the whole pandemic, we were playing for Godsent. Right now, we're in FPX. There was a long negotiations between Godsent and FPX to acquire our whole roster. After a few months, probably 3-4 months, it came down to just signing, and we did. And from the 1st of January, we're part of the FPX.
All right, I'm sure there's a lot of questions off the back of this start here, Prof and Striker. So let's start with you, Striker. You got anything for STYKO with what he said so far?
Not particularly, but I mean, just kind of to tie it into that next part. Obviously, you signed with FPX, and it was still Crystal on the roster, as far as I can recall, right? It was still, or at least there was that period where you were still on the team, but it didn't last long. So did you know that you were going to cut him eventually anyway, or what was the timeline there?
The timeline was there that when FPX approached us, they wanted to buy a whole roster, as all 5 of us plus the coach, so 6 of us. But when we spoke with FPX and asked them, like, what are your ambitions with our team? What do you want to reach with this team, with buying us? And they set their goals, and we said that honestly, we don't think it's going to happen with the lineup that we have right now. And we were hitting a skill ceiling and our ceiling in general in the tournaments. We couldn't get through it, so we decided to. It was a mutual decision. It took long weeks, and yeah, we came down to the point where we decided to go forward to FPX, but without Crystal, because it was. I don't think we could have made it to the point where FPX want us to have. And I'm not saying that we are there right now, but over the time where we're gonna fix the roster with proper IGL, we then have a time to lay the foundation for our team to become a top 5 team what they want us to beat.
Okay. We might be skipping a little bit back and forth around this stuff here, but if we just stick with where you're going with what you've just said. So how long exactly have you guys been at FPX? It's been a couple months now, right?
From 1st of January, yeah.
Okay, so all of this year. So at this point, we're about to head into the 4th month. We're about to head into March. No, April. Rather than April. Jesus Christ, I've bloody forgotten the bloody months. What a shit start by me. Anyway, fucking hell. You're about to move into April, and you're talking about having the in-game leader situation, but you guys are still like, it looks like you guys are still all over the shop with that, right? So
yeah.
How long of a timeline have they given you with that?
They've given us as much as we need basically to find the right fit, and we found it. It's found already. The IGL is found, but there was negotiations that just didn't go through, and it was between ChrisJ and FPX. So that was unfortunate. We already thought we have fixed lineup and everything was ready. We practiced with ChrisJ, even though he didn't sign yet, but it was almost ready to be done. And so we practiced hard with him. We played tournaments. We won tournaments. In one tournament, we made it to the final. It was all looking good, but in the end, there was a deal breaker. Let's put it this way. So we had to acquire a new player, new IGL, in course of less than 48 hours before roster lock for EPL. And we decided to go for Sunny, which was, by the way, on our list of IGLs even before we went for ChrisJ. But Sunny decided that he said, hey guys, I have this project with Flusha and I'm not sure where to go yet, so I can't give you a yes or no answer right now. So you better try out ChrisJ. We tried ChrisJ out and it was the right fit. So in the end, it all worked out somehow.
Okay.
Where do you go from this position onward with that problem with the IGL, right?
Where do we go from that? Well, right now we have to use our roster look is not letting us to put anyone into roster other than Sunny. So we're gonna continue EPL with Sunny. We're hitting playoffs, so there's gonna be elimination matches coming for us. And right after that, we have a little bit of a free time to actually finalize our roster. I don't think Sunny is going to continue with us. I mean, we don't know what. We might even win EPL and something might change, but by the looks of things, we're going to go back to ChrisJ if everything looks fixed for now. But it's still a long way through. Nothing signed. Don't take any word for this, but it's looking much brighter than it was a few months ago, where we won those tournaments, but the deal fell through. So that was unfortunate.
So FPX and ChrisJ back at the table talking after like a month break. So and then we'll see what happens. That's
I mean, we want to play with each other. He fits our style really good. He's a really good in-game leader, in my opinion, and he's also lifting our spirits up during the game, which is necessary for our team. He's doing good calls. He learned a lot, I guess, from Kerrigan. I never played with Kerrigan, so I cannot compare, but he did a tremendously good job while we were not playing with each other for a couple of years, dating back to mouse sports.
Okay, Jesus, we got a lot to dig into here. There's so many things that we're learning right now. Okay,
I guess we can start with like basically why you guys have been doing so well, even among all this craziness, right? Because you didn't really even have too much time with ChrisJ before you won that tournament and then went into the final. That was a DreamHack. And then now with Sunny, you're kind of in the same position. Literally had whatever, like maybe a few days of practice or something like that, and you still did well at EPL. You
Before
know,
that, with
making it through to the playoffs. So yeah, how come you managed to make it work this quickly?
I think honeymoon period really hits us hard and boosted us hard when ChrisJ comes in at the beginning of the year. Then we hit those 2 consecutive finals, winning one of it, and then the mood kind of dropped when ChrisJ and FPX didn't agree. So we went back to. We approached Sunny and he played with us. And the reason why we did good in EPL is honestly we were playing really bad Counter-Strike. I feel like it's not that we advanced through the group, it's like other teams failed to advance more than we did, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So like BIG fell flat in our group, which I expected them to be in top 3. OG also had some like questionable games, and Renegades didn't really put a performance yet in EU. So I mean, 3 teams had to advance, and we did. We were one of them, but it was really close when you look at the points and the games itself. Because against OG, I remember there were some close rounds. I think
It
we
was like
came
16,
back.
14 on the last map, both against them
was.
and Big, right?
It was. I think OG against BIG, we came back ridiculous nuke game, like 13-5 scoreline on the 3rd map, and OG as well. I remember it was 16-14. I remember there were a lot of things where we could have lost because we were coming back. I feel like.
So okay, so let's kind of set us up a bit of a platform here to dig deeper into Striker's question, right? So from when you guys were NoChance and stuff, it's still you, Zen, and Madden, right? And then Farlig, and then obviously now you have Sunny, but ChrisJ, or the revolving door of the in-game leader ever since the Crystal situation with Emmy and stuff. When Crystal is no longer needed in the team, you bench him, and you're looking for a new in-game leader. Like we've had Crystal on the show before, and I think when watching him play and the structure that he sets up, he looks like he has very good idea of how to approach the game. But then as a player, he's just trying to make space for you guys to come in and trade. Like there was a lot more of that than actual him trying to make the kills, right? Like that's at least what it looked like from watching standpoint. So with all of that and what Crystal did with you guys over such a long period of time, because it was for the 4 of you, I guess, for the 4 of you, then Makaleli there, the 5 of you, I suppose, up to that point. You still had that Crystal system and stuff, right? Are you still carrying that now? Like, is that still what is keeping the team where it's at, or is it just the synergy of the core of the players? What do you think is the key to the? Because I know you said you didn't think you played good, but you're still finding success, whether it's through other teams not performing.
I think honestly, when we added Emmy and then ChrisJ and now Sunny, it all boosted up our firepower a lot on in-game leading position. So because as you said, when Crystal was playing with us, he was creating a really good space for us, but he was more often than not creating space and not actually going for kills. We need an aggressive IGL in our team, but aggressive in the sense that he's actually an entry fragger, not the guy who is going to jump with Mach 10 around and probably like do 50 damage and ding and like throw the crosshairs off of CTs. But we need a guy who can actually entry properly and do the space this way, because you're not gonna, if you look at the trades and pro tier 1 team, you're not gonna be winning too many of the rounds if you just run around and people will kill you anyway in a burst and in a headshot. They will adjust. These guys are not missing anymore, like these easy kills that the guy is jumping like crazy and you're hoping for a trade. So we need definitely to add a firepower to that, and that's why ChrisJ was such a detrimental piece of a puzzle, I feel like, because he's really aggressive, and even if he's having a bad game, he's not afraid to push the boundaries further, and that's what we need, and it perfectly complements with the passive nature of some players that we have. For example, myself, I'm pretty passive player, and Madden is not put or forced into so many entry positions that he had to be put when Crystal was on the team. Right now, ChrisJ can take over that duty, or Sunny in our case, and we use Madden as more of a trade guy, and we keep him late in the late round if possible.
All right, so just tell me if this sounds right. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth here, but Is it because you guys played with Crystal for so long in that style where he would go in and you would not always, right? This, when I'm using this language, it's not meant to be so definitive. It's just more often than not, right?
Yeah.
You guys would have to trade off of him that you were, this sounds horrible. Like, people are going to take this out of context, but it's really not meant to sound that way, because you've had a revolving door of a fifth, and the way that you were playing before, it was almost like most situations you were set up with the man disadvantage, but you get the trade. Is it feel easier to plug a player in because if they go in and get the entry, you weren't getting that 8 out of 10 times before?
Yeah, our whole play style with Crystal was revolved around trying to get into 4v4 situations, and we were excelling at that. Like, we could find the gaps, we were active on the map, we communicated good sound cues, let's say, we had good crossfire. So 4v4s were that's our shit, right? That's where we excel at. But as soon as we get this in-game leader that actually goes for a frag and not playing for a trade, 5v4s are like 80% or 70% when you look at the statistics. 75% you're gonna win that round if you play it well. So these 4v4s were nice, and it was catching people off guard. We beat G2 when they were ranked 1. We beat Heroic when they were ranked 1. We were playing good against pretty much anyone. But as soon as even Emmy came, and he was upgraded in terms of he wasn't afraid to go in and look for the duel. Like one or 2 weeks after we added Emmy, we beat Astralis, which we never did before. So it was kind of a big achievement, and that showed us like, okay, we need to change our play style back to the normal Counter-Strike and not play for 4v4s, but actually try to get entries like all other teams are trying to get.
Okay, Jesus, we're digging into a lot here, boys. Like, we've gone off. I thought we might have been like a slow build, but we just got straight into it. So
if we're talking about entries, I'll just jump in and talk about like the opping situation, because all ops make entries in CS. That's the meta right now. 28+% of all entry attempts on teams are oppers, right? Most of the time,
unless your name's Jakinda.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of too. And maybe Henny. Yeah, Henny also not that active. But yeah, what is the deal now with Farlig? Because before, when you had MICHU, that was a whole different story. To not go into that, you bring in Farlig, who's like an up and coming opper, did quite well in Copenhagen Flames. Was it before?
Yeah.
How is he fitting into this? Is he the type of an opper you expected him to be, or is it kind of difficult to find that entry potential, right, to unlock those 4v5s in your favor?
No, he's definitely amazing. He's done really good job, and he was such an improvement over MICHU, because as I said, when we benched MICHU, we felt like there was a problem with him being too passive and not going for entries. We swapped him, and we immediately saw the improvement where Farlig actually knows when to get the entry. Like, okay, guys, we're fucked. I need to get an entry with an AWP or scout. Otherwise, we're just going to get split and lose the round. So Farlig knows when to take an initiative and take over the whole round. But he's doing this on CT side, on T side as well. He's being really careful which angles he's going to peek. But sometimes there's no choice, as he's just going to go in, try, win the fight, and win the round, or lose a fight, and we are in 4v5, which is probably still winnable, but we have a tough chance. But he definitely knows how to play the chances in Counter-Strike in general with an op, because what we had troubles before was MICHU being too passive. And then we realized that Crystal in entry duels, we use him as an entry, but he had the terrible statistics in and like success rate in entries on CT side. So we decided to tell him to back off and play a little bit more passive with utility rather, but it wasn't working. So in the end, it was one of the problems on T side that I mentioned before to chat, that he was taking a space, but he wasn't shooting back. He didn't even have chance to shoot back. On CT sides, he decided to go for the duels, but he was losing them. So it was just really hard to play 4v5 or 4v4 at best if we traded him.
I'll save this one for once we get to the playtime, because I think we're way past where we started. Okay, so you were talking about how you guys will be using Sunny for the EPL playoffs that's kicking off in a couple of days' time. You got your matchup there. We're going to touch on that later in the show. But how this is relatable to almost the last couple of years for you. So you're playing on the bench from ours. You were getting money. The rest of the team were only getting the prize money. So it was one of those things where the team as a whole trying to get back to a level to become a professional team again, right? Like a paid salary team. Then that happens in multiple different iterations. The Smash thing obviously was a fucking mess. Godsent seemed pretty good, and now that you're over there at this new FPX slot, that seems pretty good too. But you guys just have this revolving door of a fifth that's coming in. How are you still able to stay on track, right? Why are you guys not just overly demotivated? Why isn't it just like fuck this shit? Because it must be pretty annoying, right?
It's a great question, and we're annoyed as fuck, and we're depressed as fuck. But to be honest, for the past week, for the past 7 days, we were practicing like 2 of them, and it was with Devil Walk instead of Sunny, because Sunny, and we're talking like we're 2 days ahead of EPL playoffs, right?
Yeah.
And Sunny tested positive on COVID on Friday. He was unable to play, had high fevers, and that's when we had to play Blast qualifier best of ones. So it's not okay when your IGL is having fevers, and he's an IGL that is first of all standing. Then he has a fever, sore throat. He can't talk that much, and we're playing best of ones against pretty solid team like LDLC, and we lost both of these best of ones against them. We're out of the qualifier. We have no chance to qualify anymore. So this is tough. And for example, past 2 days we were playing just with Devil Walk just to play. We decided to make a decision. Either we play team Counter-Strike and search for pracs, and we play with Devil Walk, or we're gonna just play solo Face-Its, and just get in the shape this way. But we decided, okay, let's play at least a little bit of a Counter-Strike and dry run the strats, get probably fucked by everyone on practice like 25-5, but at least play something and hope for the best. So yeah, we are demotivated, but we're seeing this light on the end of the tunnel, as you would say, with ChrisJ trying to come back, and he wants to come back to us. We want him to come back as well. So if this will all work out, I believe that by the end of the summer we're gonna hit the top 10 in the ranking, and we're gonna qualify for the major. And by the end of the year, we're gonna be established tier 1 team if everything falls right into place. And I think it should, but you never know in this pandemic situation and Counter-Strike in general.
Sure.
Just one more thing about the standing thing. I mean, it's just puzzling to me that you guys would just get a stand-in as an in-game leader, right? I would just expect maybe like Devil Walk, with how coaching is now, like maybe Devil Walk could just get a take over in-game leading, because he just is a little bit more, like, understands the team a little bit more, knows what the strats are and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How are you even like coming close to making it work with a guy who just like comes into your team, doesn't even know the strats? You have to show him everything from the start. Like, how does this work?
Okay, so
you'd have it down pat by now, right? You guys should have a pretty good method.
Yeah, we know what strats we want to show from the get-go, and like the strats that have good success rate, we're obviously gonna dry run them a lot on the empty server and then on the practice. But when it comes to defaults, we'll let the IGL do the work. So the strats are on us. The default rounds are on the new player that comes in, and we learn everything according to him. But obviously, if we're supposed to play, let's say, Mirage, and we suck on Mirage as FPX core, and Sunny comes in and he's really good on Mirage, or ChrisJ comes in and he's really good on Mirage, or his past teams were, we obviously let him overtake, and we scrap our whole playbook, which wasn't deep anyway. On the map we suck on, we obviously don't play that much, and we let him just completely overhaul our play style, and we try to work that. Whereas on our good maps, let's say Nuke, we would teach our new in-game leader everything that we had, every pattern, every protocol, every rotation. We would teach him, and for those maps, they need to adapt to us because it was working against best teams in the world. We want to keep it that way and tweak it a little bit, as we go.
Okay, man, we're getting some great answers here. Is there anything, like, because obviously you've had a bunch come through now. Emmy's been there, ChrisJ's been there for a short time, Sunny's been there for a short time. Is there anything that you've taken from each of them and you've gone, fuck yeah, we'll steal that? Like, anything like that is Counter-Strike knowledge that you're going to carry through from having all these different players come in?
Yeah, definitely. There are some moves and strats that I remember vividly from ChrisJ's calling. I have it wrote down, and when he comes back, I hope we can refresh that and start using them again. From Sunny's point of view, again, I have some interesting setups on CT side. He talked us through, and in general, the approach to the game, how he's calling. Some things are really good that I didn't hear before. Everyone is calling differently, and you can find in every IGL style, you can find something that you just want to learn and take over. I'm not saying now that right now everyone should keep changing IGLs and keep stealing stuff, whatever, to become the best team in the world. But something you have to know which things are actually usable in your, sphere of teammates whatsoever. So some things I learned a lot of, for example, utility from Emmy that we used to till this day. I remember today in practice we used a bunch of Emmy's nades. So definitely something to be an eye out for.
Yeah, that's normally one of the things. Like, obviously, I'm literally ancient at this point as far as being a professional player goes. But like, it can get really stale, right? Like in terms of looking for new ideas. And if you have somebody come in and they just have a bunch of new ideas, it's really nice. It's quite refreshing to see how the other people see the game as well. Boys, do we have anything else for STYKO here in the hot seat, or do we want to keep it moving?
I guess like just to kind of wrap this up, when you think about like the whole NoChance thing, at least with most of his teammates that were unsalaried at the time for a year, fighting through all that, being a top 15, top 20 team for most of it, you can take a drink, do it easily. And then you come into the Smash situation, which isn't ideal. Then you go on to Godsend, which is okay. Then you move to FPX, and now you don't have an IGL for like 5 months. And then you roll back to like other people, NA teams and stuff like that have left the scene after literally 1 month without a team and stuff like that. Does it seem kind of funny to you to see all of the complaining that people have been doing? Like, I can't get an org, I can't do this, can't do that. When like in Europe, you guys were a semi-top team and also were in a similar situation to these guys, right? But for a much longer time.
Well, everyone has their own reasons why they're leaving the scene or they're complaining, and I understand that. I don't want to sound like a dick or whatever, but yeah, I admire what we did in NoChance in terms that we were really persistent and we only fell flat on one guy, and that was Nuki. We were playing with Nuki and he decided to leave us because he got offer from Hellraisers and he said to us, guys, I think we're better than Hellraisers. We would beat them, but they're offering me a salary. So I'm going to go because I'm pressured and I have to go. And we understood that. We lost a valuable piece of team, but in the end, it all worked out that we found even better guy for replacement and then another. And, eventually it all makes sense why it's happening. So, Prof, you're laughing right now, but you know what I'm talking about. But you have to understand that you have to just keep rolling with it. And I'm not laughing at people who left the scene or who are complaining because they're in a different position. It's sometimes it's mind-boggling, but I'm sure they have their own reasons. I don't want to dig into that. I just want to stay passive on this because I don't want to insult someone, right?
Prof, you trying to make him walk into a door or something here?
I needed to ask the big question just because it popped into my mind when people don't really consider teams like European teams like NoChance, what they were and how hard they had to fight for it to actually achieve something. So just a comparison. It was a big comparison, but I had to throw it out there.
Well, I guess we could piggyback off of that because at the moment, I think a lot of the Counter-Strike world, if you guys went on the front page of Reddit today, I think you would have seen the thread about Xtrfy. We're about to get into the Cloud9 topic not too long after this. But there's a lot of teams at the moment, right? If you have a look that are having a hard time against teams within the top 50, right? And NoChance had to go through a lot of those qualifiers, a lot of those situations. Is it as wild out there as it looks, or are these guys fucking up? That's a STYKO question. Yeah, that's my bad. I should have pointed at Martin. I apologize. I should have said, yeah.
Martin's lost.
Let me try and focus this back in. So you know how? Fuck it. So do you think right now that these teams who are struggling against teams in the top 50 is it really that competitive out there, or are these guys not applying themselves properly?
I'm gonna take an Xtrfy as an example.
Okay.
I hope they're not watching right now, but okay. I honestly think that tier 2, tier 3 scene in Europe is really competitive, and it's just a bunch of styles that clash together. You can't be ready for every style that is thrown at you. No matter how you practice, there's always going to be a thing that will surprise you in these kind of teams. But Xtremum, for example, when we scrim them, they play completely differently from what I see in matches. Like I don't even know like it's the biggest contrast I've ever seen.
Okay.
They're on scrims, they're confident, peeking, wide peeking, having the ridiculous off angle in the middle of the map, and he's just free tap the 3 guys, right? And you have no chance to refrag. Whereas, let's say we scrim them, and then 2 hours later they're playing like Nemiga or something on the same map, and same situation. They're losing 0-3, and first gun round I see that they do is like something completely passive. I understand it might have been the read, but just the contrast, how they practice and how they translate it into the game, I feel it, whenever I watch it, I'm like, okay, we lost to these guys. We had no chance on practice. Why are they not doing that they really like wrecked us? And they're practicing something different, or they're trying to anti-strat too hard. I don't know what's the issue. I'm just saying that it's probably the core of a problem that Xtremum is not performing how they should be.
Okay.
With Cloud9, I feel like they were anti-stratting too much, but that's just my opinion. I think they were, again, in scrims, we had no chance against them. But I'm sure if we would play best of 3 against them, we would win like 2-0.
Okay. All right. There's a couple of interesting angles there. Let's keep everyone good on this. We might move into the recent news.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
All right. We'll pick up the tail end of this topic once we roll the bumper and get into the recent news. Take us there, Lucas.
The Xtrfy M42 RGB, what a fun mouse with 5 colorways, lightweight frame at just 59 grams with the swappable backplate to suit your grip style, the sensor, the easy core, the smooth skates, and driverless control for RGB and DPI is why you should check out the M42 RGB down below.
Fist bumps go to the teammates.
I wanna see you rolling fast. Win the round. Win the game.
Parry Match, your esports teammate.
All right, we're back. Thank you for staying with us here. We're going to get into the recent news now. Hasn't been a whole lot of recent news. We seem to be pretty light on. I think it's because we have all the EPL games that have been taking part. But in the last week, if you guys missed it, Cloud9 have put their Counter-Strike division on hold.
On hold.
So I didn't get the statement ready. Does anybody have it handy? Because I think we should probably make sure we set the scene with that. Let me see if I can find it. Didn't do my my preparation as tightly
There
as
in the
I should
article.
today.
It's not really super interesting, but yeah, you can go with it.
Yeah.
It's also the only thing that has been said by any Cloud9 member. None of the coaching
complete silence from
staff,
everybody else.
Henry, players, no one said literally anything on
I'm
Twitter.
scrolling through. I'm seeing a shitload of Valorant stuff. Maybe we get to the Counter-Strike stuff eventually. I'm still scrolling.
HLTV and found it in the article.
Yeah, that would have been the quick way. Anyway, I found it. All right, here we go. Take this. Whack this up, Lucas. I'll read it because we have probably about 6 audio-only listeners.
There's actually like
we have a bunch, I think.
Or a few thousands per episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
I've been talking to a bunch of people who just like say that they listen in the car, like through Spotify or something, like whenever they have the time when they're on a walk or something.
Cool.
Like a bunch of people just actually do audio only.
Nice. We're doing it. All right. Now, once again, Cloud9 on hold. Here's the statement from their Twitter. At this time, we've made the decision to pause our involvement in CSGO. COVID has prevented us from assembling the team in North America as we'd originally planned. And though everyone has worked hard to rise to the challenge, the reality is that remote training isn't conducive for building an organization the way Cloud9 usually does. We remain passionate about competing in CSGO, and once conditions allow us to work and train in the ways that we know help teams to be successful, we'll return to competitive play. We're grateful to Henry and to the players for their work over the past few months, and will be cheering them on in their next endeavors. That last bit, that's fucking sassy. That's like a real sassy line, that real last bit. They could have left that. That's the snarky remark your girlfriend makes as she storms out the door. You could have left that bit out there, Cloud9. But the rest of it, all right, like you said, it doesn't say a lot. But let's break this down into a bunch of different buckets. I love buckets. And then we'll go from there. So first and foremost, was this a surprise? I think yes, considering the amount of fanfare that we had around this roster and the new direction and dumping the old team and everything like that. So this is surprising based on the messaging that we were receiving, that they were going to be pushing forward with this and an international roster and all of that. Now, in terms of what I take from this message is that the team is competing in Europe, right? They got Esteta, they got Mezzi, they had Alex, right? The three European side of the world people.
It's definitely a European team.
Yeah. And they had 2 North Americans. So with what this I'd be reading, I suppose the plan, if COVID wasn't a situation, would have been to have this roster but competing in North America. Does that seems pretty straightforward?
I mean, that was said already like when this team was put together, so it's not a big surprise there.
Mostly for like Flashpoint, right? Wasn't meant
no,
to be there.
That was like an actual long-term plan that they would like stay in LA like long-term, but then travel to Europe for tournaments and stuff, or maybe boot camps. But their base would have been LA eventually.
Okay. So with that in mind, like for them to have things not to be a crazy success, it didn't pop off. They weren't a top contender in the world by any means. It was slow going, and also it was receiving a lot of attention on the social medias, on the Reddits, on all of that Go gear, and all negative attention, right? So it feels like it's a culmination of a lot of problems coming together, and Cloud9 just pulling the plug on it because they're getting negative press and they're not getting the results they're looking for, and they can't be in control of the environment. So if we take that part, the North American part, STYKO, you're probably perfect for this because you stood in for these guys. In terms of your short amount of time playing for them, what did you take away as an organization? Was it pretty hands-on? Did you ever get to talk to Jack? Like what was the go?
Yeah, I talked to Jack pretty much every time I saw him, and that was, let's say, a few times per week. It was, I always said this in the interview usually done for Slovakian outlet media, but Cloud9, I was there for 2 months, and it was the best organization I've ever played for, period. The amount of stuff they provided for me, they got me like everything I needed at the door, basically, while I was living in LA. And even when we traveled to Europe for the tournaments, everything was perfectly smooth. Everything was professional. Communication between everyone was open. It was just really nice to play. The environment I want to play with in for forever, basically. Like, this is what I want to feel when I'm on any team. It was really secure, but at the same time very friendly and professional. It was kind of nice balance there.
Okay, so it sounds like they're a model professional organization.
Yeah, it was amazing.
All right, so for them to make this choice with that in mind, let's go with you here, Prof. Like, what are you taking away from this situation? What's your, if you were to break it down into the X's and O's, what's your feeling on what happened in the back room, right?
I mean, first, it seems too early to me.
Okay.
Like, it really seems too early. It doesn't make sense. Like, okay, you can put the LA, we want it to be in North America and LA, wherever, have like some facility. I don't remember. Of course, like the last NA CSGO Cloud9 team was kind of based in LA. But I don't think all of them, I think OC wasn't even there most of the time. Whatever. Okay. So that's kind of weird to me, but okay. You still put all of these different players together. You change the coach like a month in. That's like a big thing. You change an opera. So you know that building a team like this is going to take time. And it is going to take time. They have been playing for like 4 months maybe now. And you say, okay, this is it. We can't go on anymore. I know that like it wasn't like a very steep trajectory going upwards, but it didn't really seem that there was no improvement at all. And they are fighting against very good teams. Like, they're losing to Navi, the #1 team in the world. Wow. Like, what are you expecting here? Of course, they did lose to Winstrike. They did lose to MIBR, which was a very unfortunate loss. And they had stuff like that. But that definitely seemed more down to pressure than anything else, and like choking as a team. I don't know. It seems so weird to pull the plug so early when you're like, oh, we're committed to this project, we're gonna spend so much money, blah blah. Or maybe it is just down to we got Woxic, who was the biggest star player on the team, and that didn't work out. We didn't get Nico, we didn't get Hunter, we didn't get any of all of these other names that were kind of rumored, the JKS, JKM duo, stuff like that. We didn't get those players, and now the players that we have are actually the team that we had before this, which is like a top 20-ish team with potential to do more. I'd say this team maybe has more potential than the previous one, the South African core team
with JT and stuff. Yep.
But yeah, I guess that's the only thing that kind of comes to mind for me. Like, the team that they built is not a superstar team, and they need to invest even more to make that superstar team. And they're just like, okay, fuck this. We didn't get what we were promised, I guess.
Yeah, so I think like there's a lot of different ways that we can go with this, right? And I suppose if we take things at face value, we consider the climate at the moment in North America. Counter-Strike at the moment, in terms of if you want to compete on a global scale, is a European thing, right? Obviously including CIS, Europe, like that's our mix, right? You fly over if you want to compete. That's what you have to do. That's where Counter-Strike is at the moment. It's probably a lot of people aren't too happy with that, but that's just the way the world is right now, and we kind of just have to accept it for the time being. North American Counter-Strike, obviously, now that EPL isn't there with its own division and shit, it's a big league being taken away, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of factors we could talk with Valorant. And I guess the thing is, if they can't be hands-on with the team in the way that they want, and the way that STYKO just said, that they're able to, facilitate at least a baseline or a base level for their players, they're not in control of this, right? Because we've got Floppy and we've got Zeppa. I think they're back in America now, but they're in Europe, not in a facility. Everybody was on their own. It's not a team environment. So there's probably a lot of factors that play into it there. But do we think that the fact that Flashpoint hasn't been a smash hit may play into this because they're another partnered team? Striker, do you think that maybe has something to do with it? Because they're another team who's now gone from the Flashpoint partnered squads, right? How many are left?
Yeah, God knows what's even happening with Flashpoint, given how many teams are. I don't even remember at this point how many teams are actually functional out of the partners.
I think it's just FPX and MIBR, right?
Yeah, 4 out of 5 players.
There's Dignitas who's kind of functional as well, right? But that's.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Dignitas.
I don't remember if there's anybody who else is there.
FPX coming to Flashpoint after 2 seasons, like, we have our roster ready. The room is empty. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of consistent with what Jack was saying in my interview with him when the team was getting put together, when it was like halfway through together and stuff like that. They wanted a team to eventually, move to LA once it's possible, and stuff like that. So the plan was pretty clear, that they just had all the support that they could give the team if they were in LA, but it's not possible to do it if they're outside. If they're in Europe, they can't really build it during COVID, especially. And so, like, on one side, it kind of makes sense, but on the other, it also seemed to me like Jack kind of understood that COVID was probably not going away until like at least a year from then or something like that. So it's definitely surprising that they ended up pulling the plug anyway, even though they were going into it knowing that COVID would probably, at least happen for a while, and it's not quite predictable how long, and that the team wouldn't be there as a result, right? So it's just, maybe it's really just what you were saying at the start with, them getting a lot of PR, so they might as well just pull the plug now. They're maybe afraid of the same thing happening as was happening with the Cloud9 that STYKO was standing in for, where they were changing players every 3 weeks. Maybe they saw it coming that they would need to get an AWPer because of this, AWPing issue. Alex just gave it up for STAG. That wasn't working out very well either, so they probably needed a replacement in some way, fix this issue. So instead of just keeping this ball rolling and just like getting players after players, maybe this is just their solution. Like, okay, well, let's try again in like half a year when things are fixed.
Sure. If I look at it from purely a business standpoint, and I don't put like anything else in there, you can see how a North American organizer, right, or organization, which is primarily sponsored by North American companies, which we all know has the biggest sponsor budgets, for them not to be able to do anything in North America in terms of sponsor obligations. I know even when like the Renegades boys or when they were 100 Thieves, like they were always going and doing sponsor obligated stuff around the HyperX, this, the fucking this, that, and the other. So that from a business standpoint means you're not able to get direct impact back into the sponsor stuff, right? You're not getting anything there. You can tell I know nothing about business. Then the next thing would be if the Flashpoint thing, they already just spent a lot of money on getting a team available for Flashpoint. There's the whole fee with Flashpoint, right? I don't know if that was going to continue into this year. I don't know the deal with that. Does anyone know? Like, does that Flashpoint fee
just one
time?
Well, maybe not one time, but whatever the entire period was supposed to be, which I imagine was at least 2 years, like 4 seasons or whatever.
Okay, so that money was meant to last for so
for
it's
a while, I imagine.
probably not a reinvestment there. Okay, and then having to pay for these guys, especially Zephyr and Floppy, to be living overseas indefinitely, right? Because like we just mentioned, there's no Counter-Strike in North America or very little. So from all those standpoints, the one thing that they'd want to achieve, it's not possible. And we've already seen a lot of these teams who were North American brands, like Envy's another one that comes to mind, tried to do it internationally. They pulled the plug as well. It feels like if there isn't a scene at home, then it's really hard for them to be hands-on with this and do it the way that they'd want to do it. It just is a shame that these are massive organizations and now we seemingly don't have them in Counter-Strike. So from that angle, Prof, having a hit of another big name going, who's obviously just going to pour their resources and time, or maybe they don't need to pour more resources, but their focus into Valorant, which is all the rage at the moment, right? Especially in North America. How much of a hit do you think this is to Counter-Strike in general that Cloud9 are going? Do you think it's pretty small, medium, big? What are you thinking?
I mean, we're going into this kind of expecting them not to come back, right?
Well, I don't know. They probably will one day.
Next year or so, right? Maybe one day, as you said, like EG wasn't here for 8 years and then they came back, but that doesn't count, right? For the time being, probably not. I guess they left the door open for the major. That's kind of how I read the thing. So if the major is going on, maybe they pick up a team, which kind of makes sense. But yeah, when you think about this, the whole problem that you kindly illuminated with the base of the team and their sponsors and stuff like that, the way they framed this, just like boot camp, like you can make a boot camp in Europe. Doesn't matter. You have people in Serbia, you have people in France.
It feels like everyone can go to Serbia at the moment.
G2 also has people in Serbia and France. They managed to do it, so they just had the Serbians go to France instead of the French people go to Serbia. It worked out, right? And then they went to Berlin and they shot like promo videos. They did whatever was needed, right? So it's possible. I guess just too much of a hassle, and they decided that it doesn't make sense. I still think it's kind of bullshit, just because of what they sold overall. Not just like to me, I don't give a fuck, like, but to the players. The players came in expecting this to be like a very serious long-term project for like 3 years. Blah blah, and they just cut it 4 months in with not that bad results. Like, I don't think these results were like fair to the players. Maybe you can say Attack was getting paid 40K or Alex or whatever, but the rest of the players weren't really in that same category. So
sure. Well, I guess now if we focus in on those players, right? Maybe we can focus in now a bit more about the results, a bit more about the players. Like, we don't probably need to drill too hard about the results. I think everybody listening is aware they weren't fantastic. But it feels like Pro League happened. They didn't qualify into the top 3, which, to be fair, they were probably the 4th horse in that race, right? They were for that 4th or 3rd or 4th spot. They didn't get that position in that group. And then it feels like the doors were closed after that. So with the names, we obviously had Elmer Putty coaching. Then we had Alex, we had Zeppa, we had Floppy, we had Esatag, and we had Mezzy. Stick, I'm going to turn this to your direction. With the team, like these names, who do you think is going to go find a home easily, and who do you think is going to have a hard time?
I think, okay, I'm going to start with an obvious. I think the hard time is going to fall on NA guys, just for the sake of organizations not wanting to continue or pursue CSGO rosters lately in NA. And I'm not sure they would like to move to Europe permanently to join some other team than, some not prominent team like Cloud9 was. So I'm going to go with Floppy and Zeppa having the hardest time, and we will see how it turns out.
Is that from AG though?
yeah, that might be a possibility. I mean, any of these possibilities are there on the table. It's just there are only so many spots on the teams in NA that can be filled, and that's Team Liquid, and that's EG, probably Extra Salt, right? So when I look at the EU guys, I think STAG is a prospect that he would like to be on. I mean, many teams would like to have a prospect like STAG on the roster, in my opinion. I don't think he was utilized. Okay, I'm not gonna say he wasn't utilized well. He was probably utilized to the best of abilities in Cloud9, but he can do so much more, as you know, we could see in Astralis when he was on. And I think Messi did really good at showing himself to the community, and now we actually know him. Before Cloud9 took a risk, took a gamble, but he was one of the most consistent players on the roster. And for Alex, I don't know. Some said that there might be a Valorant switch. I have no idea, but I would be grateful if he didn't. I hope no one from Cloud9 will switch to Valorant, because that will just show me that they were actually playing Valorant, or at least having it as a backdoor while they were struggling in Counter-Strike. And instead, when you're struggling in Counter-Strike, you don't go to chill in another game. You go to an empty server and fix things.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't want them to go to a different game, because that will show me they lost it at some point sooner than Cloud9 actually deassembled the team, if that makes sense.
Okay, you're talking about like that Counter-Strike fire that burns within all of us, where, you know, we rage, but we still get back in there and fucking do it again the next day. Yeah, so wasn't STYKO, I'll pivot to you for a second.
Yep.
Weren't some of these names meant to be linked with Valorant? I saw some floppy tweeting some fucking eyes, or was it Jack tweeting some eyes?
I think it was floppy and Jack, yeah.
Whatever it was. Are we thinking that's the likelihood? What are we thinking with the Valorant moves?
Yeah, I don't know about all the players, but I mean, for the NA players, it would make a lot of sense, just because a lot of their friends moved, you know, like a bunch of the X-Chaos players and shit like that. Like a lot of these people have just moved over. So there's definitely some link there, you know, some possible connection that they, and also STYKO was talking about it already, that their options are probably going to be very limited in terms of CSGO. European teams have very rarely invested into American talent, and the American teams are pretty much full at this point, at least the ones that are like at a level that we would care about. Yep. So yeah, I would see it in the American players' future for sure, at least as a possibility. When it comes to the European players, I don't really think that, unless are just gonna get stuck behind like a massive contract, which is honestly probably true, to be fair, just because we saw what kind of values they had on their contracts when they signed for Cloud9, especially when you look at STAG and Alex. So that might be the bigger problem. I think that nobody in CS will be willing to pay that much for them, and then maybe in Valorant somebody will.
Sure, I didn't even consider that, right? They're benched, so they're still under some form of contract, right? So
Yeah.
they're okay. So with that in mind, that makes things a lot stickier, because like I would just think about it and I'd be like, if I'm Astralis and STAG is like free, which obviously is not, but if STAG is free, fucking get him back real quick, right? Not because they need him, just keep him on there. Put him in for another Pro League season, then sell him again for another fucking shitload of money. Why not? Right? Rinse and repeat. But seriously, if Astralis do get into a bit of issues, why not get Olmec as a tag back if they need somebody? Who knows? There's a lot to happen in the future with this team. Not this team, these players. And I think there's probably a lot more for us to find out about the story, because, Prof, like you're saying, we haven't...
You're missing like one key part of the... I mean, you kind of want to move on from the Cloud9 discussion. I feel it.
Well, it's an awkward situation for me to be in, right? I live with the guy. I to be fair, I haven't talked to Henry a lot about this. It was just as much a surprise to me as it was to everybody else. Because, you know, Henry was laying low a bit with all this fucking hate that's getting flung around. You know?
That's fine. Obviously not a great position to be in. But when something like this fails, and we can say like this Colossus project, it failed, definitely. Who takes the blame? Why did it fail? Like, why did it fail in the end? Because they had good players, didn't accomplish much. Where does the blame lie for the whole Cloud9 situation? What were the wrong moves? Like a post-mortem of the Cloud9 EU thing.
Ooh, I think that like when you consider what it was made out to be, it didn't hit as hard with the name value. Like I think like when you start off and it's like, okay, Alex, former in-game leader of Vitality, was there with ZywOo, who's been to the top of the charts. You know, is he going to be able to replicate it without the best player in the world? Right? Like that's a headline there, but it's a big name. It's name value. Then Woxic as well was name value as well. It obviously didn't work out in the team. That's why he wasn't there. We don't know what went on. We don't know why that happened. All we know is that it did happen. And the same thing with Kassad, right? Those three right there are the biggest signings for it. And those three right there on paper, if you just looked at their merit and what they had achieved in Counter-Strike and where they were, that seems all pretty good. But I don't think that then when you think about Mezzy, like STYKO said, it was he worked out pretty well towards the tail end there. He was having some great games for the team and consistent performances. I think Zeppa looks bloody handy as well as an entry fragger. And then Floppy had a couple 1v5s. Like, you know, he's shown that these guys are getting the experience to play overseas Counter-Strike that they didn't have to the same level in North America. So the parts for what they were, if we looked at it like that, stack up. But the team didn't bang. So is it missing more star value, missing more established names to kick off? Or was it they should have just gone, if they wanted a top 10 team in the world straight away, invest more money and see if you can buy one of the names that were there at the time? To be fair, it's changed a lot in the last 4 months. If you take a look at the constellation of the top teams. So if you took a punt on one of the teams that was there, then maybe you end up with a fucking stinker. There's no way to guarantee, right? Like where it would have ended up. But I don't know.
I mean, obviously it's kind of oversimplifying things, but I definitely put the blame on generally how this team was put together, because like very quickly, two of those members went out, right? We saw how quickly Woxic was out. We saw how quickly Kassad was out. Are we sure that like that was not predictable? Because with the Alex and the Kassad issue, they had a long time to figure out whether they were compatible or not. And that's kind of what the issue was in the end, right?
Sure.
So that's one thing that I would kind of expect them to do better research on, or maybe figure out like before all the signings are announced that maybe this is actually not the best fit. And with Woxic, you know, it sounded like the same issue that kind of cost him a spot in most sports, that he got kicked eventually. And so really was that not predictable to see him potentially, you know, getting back to the same issues as whatever it was that cost him a spot in most sports? So there were definitely some
Mouse did some good PR though, right? Like after the whole Woxic situation happened, like immediately it was the first thing off the presses was Woxic hard to work with. That was like the first thing off the presses when the whole mouse sports thing happened. And then they quickly came out like, no, Woxic's one of the best teammates we've ever played with. We got to sell him, so let's keep the no, but like seriously, like that's that. If your boss comes and says, hey guys, can you not like slander a player that we have on a bench that we're trying to sell, and we'll keep it like pretty cool out there. Like I don't know the guy. I've never played with him, so
I mean, people will still figure it out behind the scenes, even if they don't say it publicly. Like Henry is going to go out and ask whatever Woxic's former teammates what the problem was, why he got kicked and stuff like that. He's going to find out if he wants to, right? And so I guess he thought it was fixable, or maybe it's not the same issue and I'm just simplifying things. But whatever, it definitely sounded like the same thing that kind of happened to him in most sports, right? And so it's something that I would actually put the blame on Henry in this case.
Okay. So is it setting the expectation too high out the gates, you think? Because that seems to be one of the things that has plagued Cloud9 this entire time.
Yeah, that's for sure. Just because, you know, like very few teams get put together and win their first event, you know, and that was kind of the plan with Flashpoint and Cloud9. And obviously Cloud9 didn't even come close to winning that event. They went out even like in the group stage or something like that. Yeah, I think they were like 11-12 in that. And so like putting that sort of of course they had a bad group there, but still putting that sort of an expectation on an entirely new team is very unrealistic. Like I kind of bought into it just because of the like all the hype that like this is a different approach we haven't really seen before. But there's a reason we don't really see people doing this. Like new rosters just don't do that well off the bat, unless it's like some superstar team, you know, that just has so much power that they will just wreck everybody on skill alone, which this just wasn't, right? And so that's definitely something that I would also look at.
I guess one of the things that when he was going into it, he thought probably that this was going to be a different lineup, as like when the initial announcements were made, like Alex, he didn't know who the last players were going to be. And then there were a bunch of names floating around, and potentially that could have been that kind of a lineup because the Nico Hunter thing was confirmed. That was in talks, didn't happen. If it did happen, like with Nico and Hunter, you definitely win the Flashpoint season. I think that's impossible. Maybe not
I mean,
impossible
you'd go
with
far
like
for
VP
sure,
and
surely.
some of these, but like from the Flashpoint teams, you beat all of the Flashpoint teams, right? I just want to ask, like, STYKO here, how would you feel with that kind of a hype, not like hype, but like the expectations put around the team, and it's a new team? Would that like put pressure on you? Because I think, like, in hindsight, it's easy to say that HenryG fucked up with that, like putting too much pressure on the team, but not every team would falter under that. I don't think all of the, like, every player would really feel it, and it seemed like these guys did to a degree. So what do you think, STYKO, about that whole thing?
Yeah, I'm honestly kind of hyped whenever something new occurs in my life. In general, when I'm invited to the project, if I would be invited, let's say for FPX, and I did sign for FPX, I could feel for the first 1.5 months or even more, just general mood boost in the TeamSpeak. Like, you could know that these people were motivated. They wanted to get on the server first. You wanted to make it first to the server and run around, fly around, and test the nades before the scrim session actually starts. So you have that drive. You want to do it. If I would sign for Cloud9 back then in whatever September, October, whenever they announced the full lineup, I can tell you that me alone, just by signing that paper, would be motivated enough that I'm gonna tell to Henry, I'm gonna sit with Henry, and I'm gonna tell him that, Henry, we're gonna win this fucking Flashpoint no matter what. This is my drive. And if he puts a tweet out saying that I got bought out for this amount of money, I'm getting this amount of money through the contract, whatever, it's just a non-factor for me. But I'm pretty okay with filtering these things out, and I can understand that some players would feel pressured, especially not even from the online community, but the friends community that you can't just filter out. There's gonna be, like, if my, I don't know, parents or friends saw the figures that are stated in a HenryG's tweet, they would be calling me immediately. My phone would explode. But that I can't ignore. What I can ignore is exploding my Twitter notification. I just turned it off and ignored that. But I have to explain to people. So maybe that would put pressure on me, that actually real life people that I meet and I speak with, they would have expectation, and that would kind of fuck my balance up. But looking at that, it would, no matter what, I would be in this honeymoon period that I'm really hyped up to join the server. I want to practice as much as I can. I want to make as many mistakes in scrim as possible, and then after that, we have a 2-hour session where we just fix those little things, tweaks and angles, little pixel perfect smokes, whatever. You know, you have the drive and you want to find everything to maximize your potential.
Yeah. Do we, with that question that was just asked there about, like, because you're talking about social media, turn your notifications off and all that kind of shit, and the pressure of all that. I wouldn't mind. Well, let's try and draw this in with the Cloud9 situation. I'll save this one for later in the show. Do we think that the situation that Henry did, right? I know the contracts amounts and stuff, all that stuff that he made public there, from our standpoint, like, this is less of a STYKO standpoint. This is more like a Prof Striker, myself standpoint. Do we think that right there was, in hindsight, looking back at it, obviously copped a lot of shit, right? It's like now he's walking around the streets with a target on him. But do we think that move was a good or a bad move at the time? Is that information that we should have available? Like, how do we, because I know we've discussed it before, but now reflecting on it, do we still think it's good? Because it hasn't, not like a lot of other teams have done that since already.
I'm still behind it.
Okay.
I still think it's very interesting, and it brought a new dimension to, like, talking about the team, especially in terms of, like, player salary to player performance, and then comparing players. Of course, you still have rules and stuff like that, but someone drilling at like 9 p.m. Obviously, that's reasonable.
The Tuesday night.
Yeah, I think that added a new dimension, and it's hard to see anyone else doing it still, especially because how this Cloud9 situation ended up, and people are just like, okay, Cloud9 failed and they did this, so no one else is going to do that, probably. But I don't think that putting out the numbers is that big of I don't think that was that big of an issue for the team overall. I don't think that was the source of the pressure as much as just like what was said about the team and how this team was presented as this like next big thing, right?
But would you consider, and maybe this is open to everybody, once that's made public and then the results aren't good, right? Like the results, they're not up to like a top 10 team in the world level results. All that information is public now, which is a source for community chit chat, right? Like that becomes, instead of people just going, man, this Cloud9 roster, doesn't look great. Like they're not doing, like there's now a whole arsenal in a way that people can justify stuff. And do we think that had any impact on the team being shut down, or the community had no role whatsoever?
I don't think the community had a big role or like a minority maybe role in the whole thing.
Because that's what the hardcore, right? Like the hardcore fans, or the people listening and watching this show, right, would read all the Reddit comments, see all the
overall, it wasn't like the team was that expensive overall. It was a couple of buyouts and a couple of salaries, not like completely out of question crazy salaries overall. It's like STYKO primarily, especially for what he was and what he is as a player, not like an insane star player, a great player, but not probably what they needed at the time.
Probably not the value considering.
And yeah, I guess just the issue that they also kind of went out with this like, oh, we'll buy everything, we're so cool, we can spend money attitude. And then later it's like, oh, don't attack us for spending money. Like this is your whole thing.
Sure.
Like you went into the casino with like just like going around bills, and now it's like, oh, don't attack us for being like, we wanted to build bring consistency and I don't know whatever fuck to CS, when you weren't doing that. You were just buying the best team that you could buy, and it ended up being okay.
Sure. So it's the old adage, though, you make your bed, you lie in it, right?
Yeah.
Or I fucked that one up, but it was close enough. I think we all get the sentiment.
Enough Cloud9, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we want any more Cloud9?
Just one thing. I don't remember if somebody said this or if I went through it myself, actually. Okay. But I think what it amounted to in the end, with like the presumed buyouts that kind of people thought were going to be realistic around when those players were signed, and with the salaries in place, this team only up to this point has already cost the organization something like $2 million. I'm just gonna say that's like whatever for 5 months that they have been playing together.
It still cost them that amount of money.
$2 million for about a 5-month, 6-month roster. But I don't remember exactly how long. It was like mid-September that they had the first players. So that's still quite a big investment for a team,
Well, they also, like, if you consider that same year, right, they invested into Flashpoint. So in the year of 2020, is it 2 million? Was it $1 million? What was it?
It was 2 million, but also wasn't it said that Cloud9 was going to bankroll additional costs for Flashpoint if necessary, but probably there weren't additional costs at this point.
Okay, so we could go 4 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so that right there, I think that probably sums it all up. It wasn't a great year for Cloud9 in 2020, and it won't be a great year for Cloud9 in 2021. We'll see if and when they return from the hiatus, but let's keep it rolling.
You can breathe now, Sponge.
Yeah, it's hard, man.
You can relax.
It's hard out here. We got MIBR expanding their roster. Now let's give a quick little summary, because I don't know how much we talk about MIBR on the show. I don't think it's a lot. This is not the roster that you all remember. This is the new boys. This is Boom plus Danoko, and now a kid called Exit. Does anybody want to put their hand up and say, I know Exit, I watched him play, he's good? Anyone? Okay, Prof.
He was decent back at the minor, America's minor for Star Ladder. They played there with like Leo Drunky, and that was the lineup, Knack and those guys. Decent player. I'd say one of their best. I think him and Leo were the best players in that period of time, and probably he's still pretty good from the stats that I see. Obviously, haven't been watching him recently, but seems like a solid prospect all in all. Has been with Sharks for 4 years, which is fucking crazy.
So do we think that Godsent got all the new good players? Sorry, as I move my mug. Do we think they got all the new up and coming Brazilians, and now MIBR is kind of scrambling?
Yeah, but Exit isn't like he's a pretty solid one. I wouldn't say like he's like some trash tier pick for MIBR. Like people that know Brazil better than me have, like, he was one of the potential picks for MIBR's fifth even before when they needed to replace Phelps, right?
Okay. So, I think right there with this MIBR news, STYKO, you play them at all in practice without this new kid yet? obviously?
As I said, we didn't practice that much lately.
Okay.
So I remember practicing MIBR though, but it was without exit. I can tell that. But by the way, Apoka is on the coach, and is he still banned or?
He's still.
I think he's unbanned now.
Okay.
I think he's unbanned because I saw. he was
but they also have
behind them
Knack.
at
Knack
EPL.
is also there as their like second coach.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Makes sense. Yeah, but I don't know about exit, to be honest. I haven't seen a single demo of his, and I can't remember a match I've seen with him in. I probably did. I just didn't pay attention to it. So
Yeah.
tough luck.
Probably not a lot we have on this little bit of news here.
No,
This is what we're
not
saying
much.
about.
But I guess
the
it's
slow
like a
news week.
MIBR operating their role.
With a sixth man.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be like the fifth, and Danoko is gonna be the sixth. I think that's the direction that it's moving. They had like a video where they were talking about it. It weren't really concrete, but that seems to be the direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what happens there. Obviously, they're having a mixed bag of results at the moment. I don't know how long they're planning on staying in Europe. Do they have the showdown? Do they qualify for the showdown? I guess if you lose and you're a partner team, right?
Yeah,
you're in the
by
showdown.
default.
Yeah, that's
This next team though.
Yes. Well, here we go. This is a fun one for everybody the Danish Counter-Strike fans out there. This is the I don't know what we could label them. I'm sure we could come up with a fun trio of a name for these boys.
Maybe something like South.
South?
Inverse of North.
Okay, well that's a bit too easy. I feel like you're
they officially don't have a name. They're officially a team, but they don't have a name. So
okay.
So now they're South.
I saw it was interesting that there was a whole news article when do they even have other players behind this? It's Gade, aizy, and Kjaerbye have teamed up here. That was a trio that was together over there for North for a period of time. And aizy's apparently AWPing. Do we know anything else other than that?
Borup, and who's the fifth? And Fessor. Fessor, yeah.
There's hype around that Fessor kid though, right?
I don't know him, but yeah,
I've heard people talking about it around the water cooler.
Honestly, I think we practiced them once. These guys actually, when they established the roster, I was like, "Wait, who the fuck is joining the server?" Because we didn't know it, right? And they were playing against us, and they were pretty good. And I think aizy did AWP actually. Yeah, I think he did. It was. I'm not gonna reveal anything. I mean, it was just a basic scrim, but in general, they were hitting pretty good shots. I think they could be good, but on the paper, I wouldn't look into the roster that much, but it depends what they actually make inside of the qualifiers, because they're gonna have a really big trouble getting into tournaments with no organization, no spots bought for the team, and they will have to fight through this best of one hell open qualifiers, which I think on the paper there are better teams attending those.
Okay.
But anything can happen.
So let's look at this from a couple of different ways here, STYKO. Obviously, interesting roster, and STYKO's just said that he thinks they could be all right. But do you think that is the biggest issue as well, the hurdle of an organization, especially considering it's a Danish team where we've just seen North somewhat, I want to say scorned. I don't know if scorned is the right one, but they didn't have success in CSGO, and now they're no longer in esports, right? Like, do you think that's going to hurt a squad like this?
I mean, it depends. I'm not sure who's looking at this point, right? So I'm not entirely sure if they're going to be able to find an organization or not. But it's certainly an issue in these times where, like STYKO said, a lot of these spots are decided by with like partner teams and stuff like that, in ESL circuit and in Blast, and then obviously in Flashpoint, whatever. Rest in peace, or I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on over
exactly.
There, right? There's rumors of them holding an RMR event, right?
Is there? Actually,
Flashpoint, yeah, apparently.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
But that completely goes against the whole partnered situation, right? Because we can't do that.
Yeah, they can't. They can't do that for the RMR event. There's like very specific rules that they have to follow.
Curious how they fund that, right? Like, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but
yeah, I'm just in general just looking at the roster. Like, this is pretty much North 2.0, right? Just without a very set in-game leader. Obviously, gating game led before, but it wasn't a massive success or anything like that. And is the individual talent really that much better than the previous North roster? I don't really think so. Like, you don't have MSL, so maybe you can have some like upgrade in there in terms of individuals, but still, it doesn't really inspire too much confidence in me compared to the old North roster.
Sure. Prof, we got anything on this more, or I think we move on? It's interesting.
Kjaerby's age.
Okay.
Fast. Someone guess it.
22.
Yeah, that is correct. He's still only 22. That's fucking insane.
And he's already been a major MVP.
And he's already washed up. Oh my god, lol, shit, he'll be gone.
Okay, but listen, when I look at this lineup, this is maybe a team that eventually, we spoke about S-Attack, he might land on the team. I'm not sure about roles, but this is one of the opportunities maybe for S-Attack as well.
Okay.
If he comes back to Denmark.
The hard thing here is like aizy, Kjaerbye, and Gade. I'm going to take a pretty fair stab in the dark that their last 2 years of Counter-Strike, they were getting paid a lot of money. Whereas now they're going to have to go back and do it like you did it with NoChance.
Right.
Right. Now we're about to see how much of that Counter-Strike fire that we were talking about is with this team, because this is not going to be, hey, we're together and I was a major MVP 5 years ago. Like, oh yeah, I was pretty good too, but we kind of did all right, and sponsor us, right? Like pay, like they're gonna have to show the results. So we're about to see if these guys have the goods to stick it out, because otherwise they're gonna find themselves quickly having to do something else, right? Because once you're used to a certain amount of money coming into your bank account on a monthly basis, and you live in a pretty expensive country like Denmark, I think they're hoping, well, I would be if I was them, hoping for a quick turnaround. And I think a lot of these issues that have been highlighted are ones that are going to plague them. They're going to have to go play in Lucas's bloody league. Lucas, you're going to see these boys in your league soon, right? Is he here? He's not
Are
here.
they even good enough for that?
Well,
Whoa.
but they're definitely good enough for that. But
can they beat Astralis talent? I'm not sure.
But that's my point. That's my point is they're going to have to start with stuff like that, because where else are you going to go at the moment? You can go into these open qualifiers. You spoke about the best of one situations with the Blast. Even if they end up in those qualifiers, sure, maybe you can jag, getting through to the next stage of the next stage of the next stage. But right now, everything seems like it's under the belts and belt and braces. Belt and that's the one. I don't know, man. They're just words. They go together sometimes. What I'm saying is, this is not a project that just because they've come together is going to get a lot of hype around them. Like this is a team
they
that
could get some. They could get a few
local hype.
Yeah, a few invites, like based on their stance as North, right? Previously, just because it's still some names that people recognize quite well, and it was still a team that was something like somewhere around the top 30, right? Before they got booted out of North. So it's not like this is an entirely irrelevant team that could not get any sort of traction anywhere. Like some of these, whatever, Snow Sweet Snow.
Yeah, regionals. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, exactly. Like Snow Sweet Snow, that's 9 to 5. These kind of tournaments, or like the qualifiers for these, and that's already like the next, like a step up over like the open qualifiers, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like they're gonna have like the super hardest time. They still have some recognizable names that can hold a lot of value. So it's not, they're not going to have to start completely from scratch, I think.
It just almost feels impossible, like these days, to be a top tier team competing consistently without being either like a Pro League partner team, a Blast partner team, or what was a Flashball partner team. Like right now, it doesn't feel like there's enough room at the top unless you do it the hard way.
I mean, to be honest, to be one of those teams, you essentially have to be like a top 20 team, unless you're like, an MIBR who literally just got a new team and are still partnered with Flashpoint and stuff like that.
But the same thing happened with Cloud9, right? They put the teams together, they got a bunch of points that they got put into events where they probably shouldn't have been. Like they got to play in Pro League.
Right, exactly.
And that was off of, I thought, like points that like were carried over from S-Tag from those guys, right? Like
but we can't really look at like, the only value being like a top 20 team, right? Just like there's a lot of team below them that kind of still participate in a lot of these relevant tournaments, and that's probably where these guys fit in. Like the top 20 is kind of reserved for a lot of these partner teams at this point.
Sure. Okay. Well,
unless you can still break through, like, just do a really big run on one tournament, and you're still going to be able to go past them, but consistently.
Yeah,
what I'm talking about.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
There's
Cash Cups, top 15 on ESL, right?
That helps too, apparently. Bad News Bears, and who's the other one? Extra Salt. But Extra Salt are coming over soon, right? Like that's
Extra Salt won like everything almost in an A, so that's like fairly legit. I'm not saying they're like 13th or whatever, but like they won everything. But Bad News Bears being like number 15 above EG, FPX, Mousesports, all of these teams, like that's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, they fucked the numbers there. I think they're probably gonna have to take a look at that. That's that definitely needs to go through the algorithm a couple more times. Because all right. Let's talk about OG, and then we'll get into the EPL stuff.
I
and we'll
mean,
get...
do we actually have to talk about OG?
Not really.
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
just
fuck
move
it.
on to EPL.
Let's go into EPL. All right. I got some links for this one. Let me sit up straight.
What's the deal with OG? What we were supposed to
And there
talk
was just
about?
like the MICHU report.
Oh,
but-
We'll wait till it gets
okay.
confirmed.
Yeah.
We'll
This is,
never-
by the way, one quick story about the OG. So we were playing against them in a scrim, and they were playing with a new 5th player, and he was using a fake account.
Okay.
So we didn't know who it was. So we investigated, and we found out that it probably is MICHU. Like Madden said after Prague, like few hours after Prague, guys, it has to be a MICHU. I can't think of any other player that, first of all, in Prague, he used P2K instead of USB. That was a big tell. And then we copied his crosshair, and we were going through the
Jesus
players.
Christ.
And MICHU had a really similar crosshair to the guy. And that's when we figured out, okay, it has to be him.
Well, that's
Okay.
it. That is as close as you get to being
Confirmation.
HLTV
But I mean,
confirmed, right?
from what I know is that they have been practicing together. The only thing that we don't know is if they're going to maybe practice with someone else and try out someone else before signing, because it's not like they have the papers sent over to Poland and it's just a matter of time. They're still thinking about what's going on. So I'm pretty sure it probably was, but
I'm just gonna
amazing investigation.
I'm just gonna say, take it with a grain of salt, because it was, as I said, Smurf account, and sometimes when I play on a Smurf, I forget to equip USB over P2K, so that might be completely invalid. And the crosshair is fakeable, like it is fakeable. So good player would fake it and connect with a different one with a crosshair, but then change it mid game, and then it.
That's a lot of work just to hide, like.
I mean,
fucking-
they did a work with a fake account, so
Yeah.
already they want to put some work in. So okay, I'm just
Bloody
gonna.
hell. No, that's fair enough. But to be fair,
More than
OG
FaZe ever did.
OG have to play in about, what is it, 13 days time, something like that. So I guess we'll know their roster soon. Probably not for next show, so we'll be able to bring it up then. What do we got next? We're going into the EPL stuff. This is right. I was grabbing the link. I was getting the link. Lucas, whack this one up for everybody at home. Group D. If you guys missed it, just concluded. We've just concluded all the groups for EPL. We're going to bring up on screen for everybody playing at home the groups. So just scrolling down to those, Lucas, we'll focus in on Group D. Astralis ended up topping the group. Liquid came in second, VP in third, and then below that, Endpoint, Fnatic, and EG. So there's obviously a lot to dig into here, but this one felt like it had a pretty clear top 3 with maybe some dark horse or upset potential coming out of the likes of, say, a Fnatic if they'd been in the labs, or maybe the same for EG. That didn't happen. So Astralis, Liquid, VP all been through. Just business as usual, Prof?
Yes, I guess. We're talking about. I was reading chat, so I was
No, that's
really
all right.
listening.
Basically, what I'm saying
I feel
is
like in school, you know, when it's like, okay, what do you have to say on about this question, young man in the back? I'm like, yes, yeah, that's it.
you've been called out looking at
No,
your
but
fucking
you were
phone, man.
saying like the top 3 are as expected, right?
Yeah, and like, is there any anomalies there? Because these teams we got, they're the ones we expected, right?
Yeah. The biggest anomaly was probably like EG beating Astralis and then doing nothing after that. I think that's the biggest anomaly. Fnatic kind of going out, that's not that big of a surprise. Endpoint winning a couple, that's also something we kind of expected could happen. Just to pick up a couple of upsets but not get out of the group. So overall, it seems pretty much as expected.
Yeah, I think when we take a look at what we got from a lot of these teams, Astralis actually looking. I don't want to say no. They look like they're invested in this, right? That seems strange to say, but they're all boot camping. I think that's one of the takeaways. Is this is the first time in some time that we've seen all of the Astralis players together in the facility. Liquid were obviously doing the same. Virtus Pro from home. Fnatic were in the facility. EG were all together because they're back in Europe, right? So we had quite a few teams, and it was probably the most exciting group we've had, STYKO, right? We had all the comebacks. We had a lot of good Counter-Strike. Does this feel like the Astralis that's getting back on track? Like, is that your takeaway, or do you think that they're still looking like they're mortal and not the same team that we all remember?
I mean, they definitely look mortal just because like the 3 times or something that Device had to bail them out of a pretty big loss. That's one thing that I was definitely trying to keep track of. They might have lost to Liquid if he didn't pull that out. And then in this last match against Fnatic, it was Fnatic on train.
That was
another
crazy.
like massive fucking performance that If he wasn't there, like they would have definitely lose at least the first map. Might have lost the first place off after that. So without him, they probably wouldn't have been first in this group, and so they definitely look mortal still. But that's definitely some more good signs that they're not, compared to the start of the year, they're doing well in pistols again. Like it's not like the horrible fucking start that they had in Blast, and so definitely looking a bit more like the old Astralis.
STYKO, there's still no Bubsky in this team though. So what do you make of that situation?
I don't like this. I like Bobsky, so I don't like that he's not on the roster. I mean, I have no problem with anyone on Astralis, but I really want him to, get on the server and show what he's made of. But it's tough there, and I don't know the politics behind it. It would be bold of me to assume things, and I don't want any assumption to, twist my mind here. So I'm just gonna say that it's just pity.
Didn't he say something recently, Prof or STYKO? I'll get one of you two to confirm off this, that he was going to be playing multiple maps in like a tweet. I don't know how long ago it was. Why do I? It was
an interview with us actually.
Okay,
there
we go.
It was out. I wasn't doing it, but I did like the article about it. But essentially,
yeah.
He said something along those lines. Yeah, that like the plan needed to change just because of these RMR events. Not allowing them to swap players for maps. So he said he can play multiple maps. What I took away from it is that they're going to use him for like entire events at some point, or at least that's what the plan was. I don't know if that's changed since then or anything, because obviously we still haven't seen him play since then. But I imagine that's the plan. Maybe like when there's a smaller event that rolls around, maybe Astralis are just going to use him and see how that works out. Possibly instead of Zipex, or I don't know, but instead of who, it's hard to say. But considering he played instead of Zipex on Nuke, I'd imagine that's what the plan would be. Yeah, that's the only thing that I can take away from that there's a chance that they will just use him for whole events and not like for subs in certain maps.
Sure. Prof, do you think this is likely? Do you think we see him again in the Astralis?
Yeah, maybe like for a DreamHack Master Spring or something like that. I'm just looking at their upcoming events. They have the Blast Showdown coming up next, so I don't know, maybe he plays that. I don't know how much they put into that event and qualifying for the Blast like finals, so maybe not for that, but I guess DreamHack Master Springs isn't their like priority event, not compared to ESL Pro League. I think I'd say Pro League is on a higher level, so maybe that's the plan. That could make sense.
Sure. All right.
The only thing that I want to say about this is that it just doesn't fit, right? Like if he comes in, it's not going to be instead of Dupree, because Dupree's actually been playing super well this whole year so far. It's obviously not going to be instead of Device or Glaive. Like there's an in-game leader and an upper, so it has to be one of the other two. It has to be either Magisk or Esatag. Magisk maybe would make a little bit more sense than Esatag now that I'm thinking about it.
Zipex?
Instead of Zipex. I don't know why it's
no, it's all good. It happens all the time, dude. My brain's fuck like that too. Don't worry.
I think instead of Magisk would make sense. Not for Zipex, just because of the style difference, right? Because it's in like Zipex and Boopski are miles apart, right? While with Magisk, I think it's a little bit closer to each other, and also Magisk has still been kind of struggling with this form. So there's that's probably where they're looking at now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more.
All right. Well, we'll keep the wait and see notice out on that whole situation, but we've got them. We'll assess the bracket later, so we don't need to talk too much about that. But they came top of the group. Liquid takeaways. They looked good. Like I know I say that kind of surprisingly, but like I still wasn't sure what to make of this team. Right, this is their third, or I guess fourth, if you consider the DreamHack Open event that they played, where Fallen was playing from Europe, right, for their outing. But like they're actually looking like it makes sense in the server here. It doesn't. They feel like they have everything they need now. They have the in-game leader AWP thing completely covered. The roles are now making a lot of sense. Elysia's now back to that consistent form. We're getting a bit more out of NAF here, there, and everywhere. Do we think that this team is going to go down the Liquid lineage and become a top dog here, STYKO? Do you think this is going to be like a top 3 team in the world consistently? What do you make of them?
I definitely think that Fallen taking over IGL duty is insane help for the team. I really like how they play and how they just develop themselves instantly. When they're very productive, it seems like they're fixing their mistake on the fly as well as between the games very fast. They know the idea how to play, and it also helps that Alish is in monster form right now, and he was carrying, like, for example, this VP game at like +30 in 2 maps. The overall thing, if I feel like they can hit top 3, I don't think right now there's a space in top 3 among Astralis, Navi, and maybe VP, or even I think Vitality could even have a good matchup against Liquid. So I think Liquid will always struggle against these teams. I'm not sure about Gambit, but in general, the CIS and NA, it's a wild battle. So I'm just gonna say that top 3 is probably unrealistic coming here, especially if Alish will be only one in form. They will need definitely at least one heavy hitter to start getting consistent numbers throughout the tournaments. If it will be Nav, if it will be Fallen with an AWP, if it will be Grim, I don't know. But Alish putting consistent numbers isn't enough for top 3. It feels like.
Sure, boys. You
I
got
mean,
any?
to be fair, Fallen was looking a lot better in these past couple of events. It's definitely improved. And also, the one part that I think was the main difference on in Pro League, especially, was STYKO, because he had a bunch of games where he was super consistent and he was just actually doing his job really well. And while Alish was just doing his things and Fallen was actually consistent too, I think I think only in the last game against VP, Fallen wasn't really there. But apart from that, I think he had really good performances in every other series. And so, like, if this is the Liquid that we can expect into the future, then the firepower is definitely not a problem anymore.
Okay. Prof, you got anything on Liquid, or we want to jump into VP?
Oh, no, I think you covered like most of the things that were my observations.
VP, I don't know about everybody else. There were some moments there that started to look a little bit worrying. I casted a lot of their games that they had these massive leads or decent leads. We won't even go as far as massive. And then started to fall apart. And
it was 14-4s, man, twice.
Yeah.
Pretty massive.
Well, look, I guess we can. Yeah, you're right. It was massive. Yeah, what am I talking about? They capitulated in a lot of scenarios, right? And we were curious if the mental's there for this team, because if you look at the Katowice Grand Final, they dipped off against a domestic opponent. It's not like they were in a Grand Final against Astralis, right? They weren't going up against one of the teams who are super comfortable in a Grand Final environment. They're going up against a team that domestically they know, one that they probably would consider themselves, more experienced, better than, all of those things, right? Against Gambit, and then coming in here and then having like these results where they should be closing matches and then unable to do so after Yakinda gets off to these flying starts where he has fucking 20 kills in the first like 8 rounds of play or some gnarly
that
shit like that.
was fucking crazy.
What was he doing, dude? Like, he was everywhere. That round where he pushed Banana, pushes all the way down, gets the kill with the MP9, and then rotates all the way back down and pushes apartments and gets 2 more. I'm like, dude, can you just give him a fucking break? Like, he was mauling them, right? But this is the thing. The team still struggled to close. So what are they missing? Like, are they missing a cheerleader? Are they missing that guy to stand up and win clutches? What's missing here? Because Yakinda can get them off to flying starts. He can open them up a lot of rounds, but it feels like if he's not getting a kill or 2, that then occasionally, obviously it's not consistently, they seem to not be as threatening. And like, what was this team before? This team before was the firepower through Kickit, Buster, and Jame, right? The Jame time meme. Sanji fucking dropping AWPs and Adren occasionally doing something, right? Like, he wasn't a star player in that roster. Now they have a firepower upgrade, but in late game situations, maybe it feels like they lack initiative. I don't know. Do they lack a closer? Do they lack somebody to make is Jame not experienced enough as a caller to make the calls to just close the match out? Do they have the wrong approach for doing that? Like, I feel that there has to be a problem there because it happened to them multiple times, right?
Yeah. I mean, if anything, initiative is not the problem, just because Ikadar has fucking loads of it. Like, he's always going to be somewhere in front taking initiative. So it's more that maybe they just need to put a foot on the brake at some points, just because like Ikadar is kind of like Art, except just a lot better. In that, like, he can win rounds on his own, but he can also kind of lose them on his own, just because he's super somewhere off to the side, doing something on his own, and he's gonna die without any sort of support. That's a lot of the time, or he's just gonna kill 2 people without any sort of support. That's kind of the player he is, right? It just works for him more often than not. But when it doesn't, it's kind of noticeable, just because he dies first, and that's a pretty big impactful thing to have for the other side. So that's maybe something that they need to now keep an eye on a little bit more. Just tell him to chill a bit, not get as like quote unquote predictable and just be in front all the time. But it's obviously like he got them there. Then you're just gonna get both of these sides to him just because that's the kind of a player he is, right? So you kind of have to work around it now.
Sure. STYKO, do you think it's that simple that it's Yakinda maybe giving away too many opportunities late, or do you think there's bigger problems?
So for closing in general, I remember in my previous team we had a problem with this. And for example, there could be things that we cannot see or hear, and that's common. So people get overhyped, they overcome, they get ideas flowing, and they can't decide what to actually do within the round. That's one thing. And then the second thing is when you're down 4-14 and you're playing, let's say, a CT side, you're gonna play unconventional CS. Like you're gonna do stuff that you're like, if I just play default and it even works, it's not gonna work for the upcoming 15 rounds or whatever. So we have to play a little bit loose, maybe tilt them a little bit, maybe use a one way that will, make them scared to go to that side anymore. And they use these gimmicks to, shift the pace towards where they want it. 4-14 is a lead that is very hard to come back from, but you can't do that if you're playing proper Counter-Strike and you're just playing crossfires and flash plays and whatever. You have to play a little bit of a, gimmicky style that is annoying to play against, and maybe VP struggles against this. That's why they cannot close it, because it's not Yekindar in an initiative doing a play. It's actually the CT pushing Yekindar back at him, and there he's forced to a duels which he's not maybe comfortable in. He's losing that. Eventually they have to play 4v5 and they save a lot because James is on the team. So it all kind of, snowballs into this kind of thing where suddenly it's not 4-14, it's 10-14. And you're on the eco or a force buy, and then you miraculously win that one, and VP suddenly wins the game anyway. So,
okay.
But from this point of view, it's 4-14 lead. CTs will try to make you force duels that are uncomfortable for you, and Yekindar might be troubling, in troubles with some of these duels, and it eventually falls flat.
All right.
I think like what he said, just like it's more of a general thing than a map related thing or a side related, because like there was a train game against Astralis, they had 11-4. There was a overpass game against Endpoint where they had a massive lead. They had Inferno against what is it, EG or something.
Yeah.
So, and it's different sides, CT side, T side. I think on the CT side, one of the things that VP likes to do is just like overstack and save. And they go for these gambles, especially when they have a big lead, because like, oh, we have a lot of rounds, so we can gamble them and we'll eventually close it out. And that can sometimes maybe roll in the wrong direction, and the other team just gets the momentum, and that's it. And then you have a close game. Like a lot of them, they actually closed out in overtime or 16-14.
Yeah.
But still, it's kind of worrying, especially because you can't do that against like the best teams in the world. They will punish you, of course.
Yeah, I think that it's something that they can probably get out of their system a lot easier in the online era, right? It's not like it's the pressure, the crowd, like they don't have to flashback all those things. I think they'll have a solution for this next, because VP always, when they seem to hit a hurdle, seem to find a solution, right? Seem to be able to work something out. I want to touch a little bit here on Endpoint and fnatic before we just jump into the EG conversation. I think Endpoint, for their first crack, like in the Pro League, they've been trying to get here for a while, didn't do terribly. They didn't come last. Like, they looked threatening. They looked like they had some good moments. They also had some average moments. I think Crucial was winning some good clutches. Flames, which he asked me to call him Flamesy, and then he asked me to call him Flames again. So we're back on Flames. That's it.
Classic, man.
He looked pretty good in moments too. Like even Surreal, for example, in some of those maps, like Overpass, he was doing a good job finding symmetry kills. So I think Endpoint for Robin as well looked pretty good. I think, like, all in all, for the group that they were in, what were we expecting of them, right? So for Endpoint, it's a rough group to be in. It's a rough way to go about things, but they at least put up a decent showing.
I think they're happy with what they showed overall. I think they showed themselves to the
like
wider,
a showcase, right?
Yeah, to the wider CS world. Like, okay, these guys are pretty good. They've been on the edge of the top 30 for a year. Pretty frustrating. Didn't have like a big event. Now they're going to be playing the last showdown as well. So I guess cool for them.
Yeah, I think as well. Like I remember watching like Mighty Max and Thomas and those kind of guys back when I did like a Gfinity Elite Series thing, like fucking 2017 or 2018, something like that. And I remember he was like pretty young back then. So when I saw him back in the server with this Endpoint mob, but I had a look, he's in-game leading the team as a 23-year-old, like another British in-game leader. We've got there. I was pretty content with what I was seeing in terms of the way the team was approaching the game and stuff. It's not like they're coming in here as like a gimmicky team, right? They're actually trying to play proper Counter-Strike. The problem is they were playing against all the other teams who are really good at the proper Counter-Strike, right? So I think they just got a rough end of it there. Anyone else got anything they want to say about Endpoint before we quickly just touch on Fnatic?
No.
There we go.
Not particularly, no.
Fnatic, how much trouble are they in, boys? Is this? I saw Khan make a tweet about the team and wanting to be a legacy team in Counter-Strike, all this kind of shit. The team obviously isn't anywhere near that. Jacquinho had some good performances. I think that is a positive, right?
That would be one positive, I feel like.
Yeah. So other than that, Fnatic look like they're fucked. Is anyone else got that feeling?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't even look competitive in most of their series. Like apart from the one that they beat EG in, like they lost all of their series 0-2, and it was convincing every time. So that's definitely concerning.
They're talking about wanting to do more structure and stuff, right? That and the name Fnatic don't really go hand in hand. But I feel that we're at a point where unless you can play like Furia with art, you can't play a sporadic style. You have to play the same style as everybody else, but have your own tweaks and shit on it. So do we think, I'll put this one to your direction, STYKO, do we think that this team, if they want to go to something a bit more structured, maybe even if you could mix up roles, let's say that was a possibility too, do you see this Fnatic roster with these players getting back to a competitive level?
Yeah, for example, for starter, I want to mention that Jacquinho, there is a correlation in their results. As soon as Jacquinho is doing good, they're gonna win that game.
Okay.
When he did poorly, they were usually losing 0-2. So it might be trying to put him into comfort zone. I understand he's a new guy and everything, but I don't understand the dynamic of the team, obviously from outside. But just saying that Jacquinho, you said, had a good performance against EG, and that was the only good performance he had in whole EPL, basically whole group stage. They won that game. But for the things that about structure, listen, I've been led by Golden before when I was on the Cloud9 actually, and I was kind of impressed how he's calling. I expected this Swedish style, but still, it was way too loose for my liking, and I'm not sure if it changed over time or changed, in the course of these 3 years. He used to play on the Swedish team for the most of the part, if I exclude that Cloud9 period. But there is generally IGLing in Sweden is conceptual around Lucy style, and the structure will find a way eventually. But as soon as someone is not hitting the shots, it's really hard to win the game. So if you have probably only Crims doing pretty good and solid right now on Fnatic, it's going to be really hard for you to bring some numbers in and beat some good teams, even take a maps off of them. Brolan is not having a good tournament, or wasn't having a good tournament. He tweeted that he needs to find himself. I completely understand that. And then the fact that Jacquinho had only one good game, which they won, it's like too little firepower coming in, and I'm not liking it. And I think they should try to bring structure more into the game. It's just really hard in the nature of the just Swedish Counter-Strike to do so. And I remember from my experience when Golden in-game led me, he wasn't, I'm not saying I wanted to push a structure into the team, whereas he was kind of, reactive kind of style. When you make a kill somewhere, you have a protocol to take some area instantly. You just do it. Even if you have to go through the smoke, you will do it. But in the games, behind that smoke, there's going to be a CT waiting for you, and it will kill you, and you lose away the advantage. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think that almost gone are those times, right? Because when we talk to Art, we ask him interview questions, it's like about his style, and he's like, there's a plan to the aggression, right? Like they've always got something behind it. Now, whether or not that fits with how everybody else is doing it is a different story. But as long as there's a plan behind it, I know what you're talking about with Fnatic, because when we watch it, like they'll get a kill and then they just go for the gap. That gap's not always going to be there, right? Like that's yeah. So I think though that if Brolan and Crims, like as those two individuals, can be the individuals we know them to be in terms of their output for frags, those are the players who feel like they'd fit and benefit from a system, right? Because they're more like slower, more anchory style, like multi-kill from a spot type players. I know Brolan loves to get in there aggressively, but it's like they don't feel like they're players who would be hindered by structure. Do you think that, STYKO? Do you think those individuals would be hindered by structure?
I don't think they're hindered by structure. It's just very often on Counter-Strike that you will play. It's either it will work and you will get a good games in. But when you're playing official, people are ready. When you're playing practice, you can get away with stuff like pushing smoke or even pushing a molly because people are not 100% focused. But even in the official game, I find myself even clearing the corner that was already cleared, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So you're like extra careful. Even if you throw the smoke down, if you throw a molly down and you HE into it, in official you're ready that someone made it through with 1 HP.
Sure.
There is almost zero chance of happening, but if he did, he has to be dead. In practice, it might work, and maybe that's why Fnatic is trying to still bring what works in practice into the game, because in practice they really like to overrun their opponent, because people are like, I'm not saying we don't care in practice, but people are more loosey goosey. They try stuff, they play different setups, not very conventional Counter-Strike, but that will not work in the games like officials, where people are just holding the smokes actively, like they're literally waiting for you to peek through the smoke.
Yeah, I feel like that's a symptom as well of this online Counter-Strike, is everybody looks ready for everything. Like that's one of the things that that I think is a little bit different from LAN. It's a lot more reactive, and there's a lot more. Maybe it'll be different when we get back to LAN. Maybe everyone will be like they are now online. Who knows? It's unlikely, but maybe we'll have to wait and see.
It's also sound cues that comes into play. Like online, you hear every little sound cue for like quarter of the map, whereas in LAN, I'm pretty sure if there's molly burning next to you, then HE exploding above you, and the guy is running fairly close to you, you would not hear him, or you would hear him when it's too late. Whereas in online, I'm in this room, it's so silent that I can hear everything. On Inferno, I'm in pit, I can hear the guy dropping from second mid. So these things do matter, and in LAN, I'm pretty sure we're gonna abuse it again once we hit that sweet spot after pandemic.
Okay, might get some faster Counter-Strike. Yeah, Striker?
What I'm getting from this is you can't be all loosey goosey having a sandwich.
Right? Yeah.
Jesus. All right.
It's just a trigger word for you, Matt. It's just because I've heard that ad for the masterclass from Daniel Negreanu so many times.
All right, let's talk about EG, shall we? Because we're gonna wait and see more from Fnatic here, see where they pop their heads up next. But EG, they still have a bit more time in Europe, right, Prof? They're gonna do this Blast Showdown thing as well in a couple weeks' time.
Yeah, they should have also the DreamHack, right?
Wait, I'm having a look. Where are they in this bracket? Or are they already through?
No, they
did EG make it through? Okay, there we go. That's where
they have Snow 3 and apparently.
Okay.
And FunSpark Ulti Europe Final.
Okay.
Sounds pretty trash, but the first one has Havu, Fnatic, Mouseports, and the second has VP, Big, Complexity, Heroic, and also Havu, who are now in the top 20. Congratulations to the Finns.
Okay. So this EG that we've seen with Obo, they only had very limited practice, was what we were hearing with him since they got back. They were putting in a lot of hours. It looked good for a second, and then it looked a little bit all over the place, right? So how are we dissecting this team? Do we think that it has the potential, Prop? Do we think that this team, can get back up to where the EG that we know and love from 2019 was? Obviously, that's their peak, but do we think that they have that potential with Obo?
I think they definitely showed good peaks during this tournament, but also very low lows, individually as players and as the team, depending on the matchups. Like, I was actually super surprised by Breezy's form, considering that they were in NA and this whole story that they didn't practice and all of that. Like, Breezy individually had some insane rounds. Cirque is in better form. He has been pretty shit, let's be real, for 3 or 4 or 5 months almost. So those two being in decent form allows them to actually challenge in these series. And then Obo was super hot and cold, but you can kind of explain that with him being new to the team.
And first officials in 6 months, right?
Yeah, people talk shit. I think overall his rating wasn't that great, but he had some great maps. So that's the thing that I saw overall from EG. I saw good peaks, but not enough consistency. If it is true that they practice for a week maybe together, I think that makes sense. Some things won't be really drilled down. You go into an official, you have one thing ready, that one thing doesn't work. You have a second that you kind of know what you're doing. And if that doesn't work, you just lose. And that's the whole thing. So overall, I still feel like my assessment from last episode or whatever, when we talked about Obo, I think they'll still be around that top 15-ish position. I don't think they made such a big change that will propel them back into the top 10 or anything like that. I think that's still not really, I don't know, something we can expect from them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Striker, what do we think about this angle? Because what they were talking about with Zeus there in the interview pieces that were on the broadcast about how like they took that break and this is like a new project, right? Like before they got too friendly with each other and stuff, and now this is more like serious business. It's not just being friends, right, and playing Counter-Strike and stuff.
Yeah.
What do we put much stock in that? Do we think that's going to keep the team on the straight and narrow? Like, what do you make of that messaging?
Maybe it just meant that they got a little bit too comfortable, not putting 100% effort in and stuff like that. That's probably what I would take away from that. Whether it's actually going to make a difference when they do, maybe small one, but I just think, like Prof said, like this, if you think about it change for change, like Ethan for Obo, individually, it's not a big change, not a big difference, right? Like we don't expect Obo to be massive upgrade or anything. They're still going to rely on Breezy a lot of the time, just because that's who's been their biggest star for the last couple of years, or like a year and a half now. And so, like the team hasn't really changed too much, so I don't expect the results to either.
Well, Cirque had some good moments, right? That he was popping off again. They were getting the stuff we expect out of Breeze. I also thought, I don't know if anybody else thought this, but I thought the way that they were approaching some games, it wasn't always in the EG way that I remember, where like we talk about getting a pick and just fucking going. Like I felt like EG were quite a momentum-based team before. I felt that they were using the clock a lot more. I felt that they like were doing interesting things against VP as well, like letting VP milk down the clock. And then late round, as they go into plant, just in like 4v4s, just fucking swarming them, trying to make super cap. So I felt like they had some like good approaches for the problems that they were dealt, which is good, because I think before with EG, when I would watch them, if the individuals weren't hitting shots, kind of what you're saying before, Sticko, about the fnatic of the Swedes, right? If they weren't hitting their shots, they weren't going to win the games, because their style was, we're going to run at the brick wall with good flashes and smokes and mollies behind us, but it's still going to be like a 50-50, like a top banana fight that Ethan would win. Some games he'd win most of them. Some games he'd win none of them, right? And that kind of thing is, you can have all the utility in the world. Sometimes it's going to pay off with your timing. Sometimes it's not, right? And I noticed, or at least I thought I noticed this time around, that they were a bit more dynamic in their playbook and their approach to the game. It didn't feel like the same old. So there's obviously, or at least it feels like there's something that's been done there.
This is something, by the way, that I noticed as well. This explosive like retakes and stuff like that. They're just like so off timing for a lot of these teams. I feel like, so that's definitely something unique about them. I don't know if that's going to make them very different. People just get used to that, I think, at some point. So it's just something that I've definitely caught on as well.
Sure. Now, Steve, I want to check with you, because we're almost running to the end of the show. We normally do 2 hours, but we've got some stuff we want to dig through. Are you happy to stay with us for a little bit longer?
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. Then I don't need to go crazy rush. That's all good. Do you have anything on EG you want to touch on?
Personally, no. I haven't paid too much attention to them since they weren't in our group, and they weren't really advancing from the group as well. So
didn't need to keep eyes on it.
Scrapped. Yeah.
Fair enough. Do we want to move into this bracket, boys, and take a little bit of a look and explain this? All right.
Yep.
Lucas, that link before, I'll link it again. Let's bring this one up, and we'll run through this bracket for everybody at home. So last night, when the matches all finished, on air, they had the brackets. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the way that the EPL format works for season 13, there was 4 groups of 6 teams. The top 3 teams of each group progressed. The top team in each group, so 4 teams in total, one from A, B, C, and D, just to make that as clear as humanly possible, were randomly drawn in the play-ins, which they can either make it straight into the semifinals or the quarterfinals, depending on the outcome of that game. So the draw that happened with those top 4 names, it ended up with Heroic versus NIP on one side and Gambit versus Astralis on the other. So immediately, I think Gambit versus Astralis is hitting a lot of hype for a lot of people to see that matchup. But then if we just talk about the second and third teams, they ended up looking like this in the bracket. So we had Furia FPX in the same side of the bracket. We have G2 Liquid. On the bottom side of the bracket, we have Complexity Na'Vi and Virtus Pro Ents. So I guess what we'll do is we'll start with the play-ins, and then we'll go through the rest of the bracket, right? Because it's going to have direct impacts.
Yeah.
So I think that for most people here, taking a look at the Heroic NIP one and considering all the other names, it feels like it doesn't necessarily hit what we're looking for. But I guess that's just the way the cookie crumbles, right? Heroic versus NIP, Striker. Do you think that still has a chance to be a good matchup?
I mean, not for this stage, right? So
Okay.
I think at this stage we would have expected something like, a Liquid and Navi that actually could have happened in the first round of playoffs now, right? So that's kind of like the level of teams I would be looking at, especially like given that I feel like the groups ended up a little bit unbalanced, not necessarily because of the seeding, but just because of like external factors like FunPlus Phoenix being in flux, complexity kind of still being in a weird spot.
Sure.
OG, having changes as well, stuff like this. Renegades coming in with
How much do
like
we know
a weird.
about Ents?
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of these two groups just kind of turned out a little bit weird compared to the other two, where there was a lot of the bigger names, especially the group D, obviously, that ended up being like super strong on even on paper. And so, given that those two groups ended up facing each other, the two weaker groups and then the two stronger groups, it just ended up a little bit unfortunate.
Sure. When we look at the other one, Prof, the Gambit versus Astralis game, does that, like, to you feel like it could be a grand finals preview?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Astralis, we all know. Gambit, Alish even said that Gambit is the number 1 team in the world right now for him. Said VP is number 2. So I think that puts like a lot of expectations from people on. Is STYKO like shocked by these words? Or
Yeah, I think you were trolled or something.
I think he said it on air.
He said it on air.
Didn't he say only
interview.
about VP hit number 2? Did he mention Gambit?
Then he said, and I think Gambit is number 1.
Really? He said that?
And Alish isn't really a guy that would go and troll like that. There's a clip.
Okay. I saw the clip, but only half of it. I thought the rest is troll, so I didn't bother watching. Okay. I mean, today they won against us like 25-5 in scrim. So yeah, they're definitely number 1 in the world.
Okay.
Who are you
And
talking
no
about?
chance against Gambit.
Yeah,
but,
okay.
we had the devil walk standing in, so.
Fucking hell, we're getting scrim results live on the show. We're getting everything today, boys. With this one here, STYKO, we're taking a look at Gambit Astralis, right? Like, and to your response to what Prof was just saying, do you think that this is clear in your mind who the favorite is in this matchup? Because I think to a lot of people it's not.
I mean, I think I'm pretty clear on this one.
All right.
I really want Gambit in our side of the bracket, so I want them to lose. I'm gonna cheer for Astralis because we're having really good run on officials against Gambit. So I really want them. I think our side of the bracket is really good for us. Looking at the teams, like in the other bracket, we always struggle against Complexity, against Navi, against VP. We struggle. So if Astralis beat Gambit, we're on a really good run. I mean, it's the best we could hope for. I'm not saying we have a good chances, but it's the best we could get out of all teams qualifying through.
Okay, so based off of your good results against Gambit, you think Astralis are the favorites in that one?
Yeah, Astralis are the favorites in the matchup, and I also want Gambit in our bracket, so I'm going to cheer for Astralis as well.
2 reasons right there. All right, now if we take a look at the bracket as a whole here, Prof, which side do you think is harder? The top half or the bottom half? And I know that's going to be determined as well by who wins and loses the fucking play-in matches, but like just at face value and with who you think is going to go.
I mean, I can just assess like what we have right now from the bottom 8 teams. I think from the other is kind of random.
Okay.
Like you don't know who's going to win from Heroic and IP. You don't know who's going to win from Gambit. Astralis definitely. So
yeah.
It changes literally everything. But from what we already have, so Furia, FunPlus Phoenix, G2 Liquid, then Complexity, Navi. It's very hard. I feel like it's pretty balanced overall. Like, I mean, obviously, a Furia FPX game is kind of on the lower side, but all of these, like VP, Complexity, Navi, Liquid, G2, like any of these teams are looking pretty hot. Maybe G2 not that hot, but still at least like a top 4 potential, definitely for this tournament. So I feel like it's balanced, and maybe give it just slightly to the like Complexity, Navi, VP side.
Okay, STYKO, which side for you? Which one do you think is looking a bit more stacked here?
I was thinking about the bottom one too, but I feel like that's just on a such a close balanced bracket. I think. Well, I really don't, because it's like, and sure they showed a lot in the group, but it's not like we just have them as like a top 10 team confirmed at this point, right? There's no way, especially after they just shit the bed like right afterwards in the what was
they
it?
Lost to Havu, right?
Yeah,
they lost to Havu. And there was like another weird result in the group
They
stage as
lost
far
to
as I remember.
Mad Lions in a best of 1, but
Yeah,
then
there you
beat
go.
them in the rematch. They
There you
played
go.
training twice.
So yeah, like with this result, ENCE are obviously like a bit on a weird side. FPX obviously, being in flux with the roster, and then the other three on both sides are kind of like balanced in my eyes. Maybe like VP and Navi being above like Furia and Liquid, and maybe.
Yeah, I think here if we just take a look at like the potential matchups we have, like out the gates, G2 Liquid's good, Complexity Navi's good. Like no offense, STYKO. I think like most people go into that matchup, especially with what you've told us tonight on the show about the whole sunny temporary situation. Would go in with Furia as the favorites there. I think most people would go in with VP as the favorites over ENCE. If you get VP versus Navi, that's a great second round playoff game. If you get Liquid versus Furia, that's a great second round game. Like lots of storylines there, right? Like lots and good matches as well to expect from those type of games. That's cool. And then as we move and progress further in, the thing is, heroic NIP results neither have shown consistency because we haven't seen enough out of them, right? Like there isn't enough sample size. So it's tough one to call, but at least all the names here, I don't think there's going to be any crazy blowouts. Like I'm not expecting any just drubbings. Like there's potential for, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case with the type of Counter-Strike that FPX and ENCE play, right? They're not the type of teams who are expecting just to get blown out. As I probably,
I could see VP just blowing out ENCE on the play style. On the play style thing, I feel like ENCE could get blown out pretty hard.
Yeah,
just based on it being VP.
Yeah. What about FPX Furia though? What do you expect from playing Furia in a best of 3? Have you ever played it?
Yeah, I mean, again, only in scrims, but that scrim ends like 30 minutes early. Like you can literally just keep tossing your nades at whatever position you're playing because they're gonna eventually come. Like, they will go through the smoke. It feels like they have 40 seconds when they leave freeze time, right? Well, we have 140. Yeah, they're just Wing everywhere. I mean, maybe that's what they practice. I don't blame them. It's really hard for me to say, but it's usually a really nice prac because there's a lot of multi-kills coming in from both sides. It's either us getting multi-kills, then next round they get multi-kills. It's like a highlight reel, basically, on the server. And it's really fun to play against them as well because it's not like a nonsense pushes that they do. It all makes sense, but you have to look at the bigger picture. And really good pracs against them, to be honest. I really have fun.
So you just said that you enjoy that style. Do you prefer like playing against that in officials when there's pressure and that kind of shit can get like snowballed against you? Or would you prefer to play against VP knowing they're going to execute with about 15 seconds left on the clock every round?
I think Junior is in the chance. I'm not gonna answer that. He's gonna adjust their play style. But honestly, I don't mind playing that style in officials as well. I've played a bunch of teams that they just W. Like I remember Movie Star Riders when they were still Spanish team. It was just it's super fast. Like overpass, their T side is basically executing fast B 15 rounds, and I'm a B player, so I was just kind of in a chaos, hiding in a smoke. 10 rounds and then 5 rounds getting flashed through that smoke. So it was adventure on B side.
All right. Well, boys, we got this bracket. We put it up here. We don't have too much to dig into, and now that we've taken a look at it, do we want to like pick eventual winners, like, or do we want to just fucking keep it rolling?
I mean, we don't get
we
that
have another
far
show
in time, so.
We do have another show. Yeah, shit, you're right.
Halfway through the playoffs.
We can maybe look at like just the first 2 rounds, right? Because that's what we're gonna reach before the next show.
Sure. Okay. So STYKO, help us out here. These matchups, you're obviously going to be a little bit biased on your own, so maybe we'll do that one. Boy, we won't involve you for the first one, but for the rest, let's get who you think are going to take the opening matches. So, Prof Striker, Furia or FPX?
I mean, Furia.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with FPX because you guys have the majority there, and then I can look like the good guy in front of STYKO. So let's go with Furia win that one. G2 Liquid, STYKO, who you got?
G2.
Okay. Prof?
Liquid.
Striker?
After groups, I have to say Liquid, yeah.
Oh, okay. I think the map pool. Oh, Liquid been picking Vertigo, haven't they? There might be a bit of a pain in the ass for G2. Well, now they got Jax back, the Vertigo's not as bad. I don't know. I'm all over the shop with that one. I'm going to go with G2 just to go against the grain. All right, what was the next one? I fucking
Complexity Navi.
Okay.
This is a really hard one. I'm gonna go with Navi just for the sake of. I think Navi doesn't deserve. They don't deserve to exit the tournament playoffs round 1.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go with Navi.
Prof, the history you're talking about here.
Yeah, I was trying to see if they played a lot, but they didn't really.
No, not
Played
they were
like
Not that
once
much.
early this year when Yugi was playing for Complexity.
yeah. I
Otherwise,
don't know. I'm really not like. There's something funky about Navi. We all saw like this group stage was pretty weird, but that was also like simple being COVID sick maybe or something, and all of this like experimentation. Yeah, I'll still side with Navi. I'll still side with Navi. I think they stabilized by the end of the group stage.
STYKO?
Same.
Yeah, I gotta go Navi as well. See that like it once again, like Complexity, we don't know if they're back yet, right? Like, and to be fair, they never were like super back. We just had some peaks and some troughs from them. So a bit more time for Complexity.
I mean,
VP, everyone's gonna pick VP friends.
I mean, it does look like just to say, it does look like Complexity don't really mind the matchup at least. So it I think it promises quite a bit.
Okay. Yeah, the VP ends one. I think we'd all go with VP. Anyone object to that? All right,
Nope.
easy. Heroic NIP, that's not until the week after, right? The play and stuff will be going down next week. So we can check out
I'd still say Heroic is the favorite for that for me. Like,
they're undefeated, mate. How can you argue with it?
Yeah. going for the 87-0
Yeah.
online record or
Against
something.
NIP. So hopefully that's it.
I mean, they lost some maps, so it doesn't count. Fuck it.
Oh, we can't even spin that one. And then the final one, Astralis Gamba. I think STYKO went with Astralis. Where are you going, Prof?
Ooh. I really don't know.
Have they played each other? I'm trying to remember when they played each other.
Yeah, I think they did.
They played each other at DreamHack Masters Winter in 2020.
That's the only time.
Yeah, 16-9, 16-12 to Astralis.
Yeah. I feel like Gambit takes this one.
Okay. STYKO?
I'm also edging towards Gambit right now. Just yeah, I think Astralis, even though they were first, I think there was still some shakiness. They had to get built out by device, so I feel like they're still not 100%. So I'm going to give it to Gambit, who have just been looking super good still.
When there's not a lot of like, okay, let me try again because I'm just going to say when there's not a lot on the line, which is not the case. There's a semi-final berth or a quarter-final berth. I can't tell who that means more to, right? I guess it's about who you would avoid depending on where you would end up on what side of the bracket, right? That's where for them maybe like more of a motivating factor. If you're like Gambit, you don't want to end up on the same side as the bracket as Navi, for example, or whatever, right? Like it's too hard to call. I think that like Gambit
maybe you do.
Maybe you do.
Yeah, why not?
Maybe you do. Yeah, no, but like
they just played each other.
Yeah, but that was just a bad example.
Yeah, sure.
But the thought process here is like when you go into these matchups, there's still a lot on the line because you can go further in the tournament with one win and guarantee yourself a top 4. But there's always that like mental side of things of like, you know, Astralis probably think they can win the tournament without being top 4 immediately, right? I don't think both feel the same.
I kind of see both teams in the same category when it comes to like the mental side of it. So I feel like both teams will just really want to try.
I think if Device is in this form, like if Device is playing this level Counter-Strike and then his 2 ICs and stuff show up with him, like I would go for Astralis. I think that if anybody's gonna like figure out Gambit, right, it'd be Astralis. Like if you were gonna look at any team to pick to be able to solve the puzzle, that's where I'd be going with things. Let's keep her moving. Let's jump into the playtime. Lucas, do we need to roll the bumper here? Okay, roll the bumper. Let's go. All right, welcome back. We are going to be hitting into a new segment. We did it last week. We're doing it again this week. It is the Parry Match Matchmaker. And if you remember it, it is basically a bunch of predetermined answers. And STYKO this time around will have to be put into player names. I think last week we did teams. This time around we're doing player names. Lucas, do you have anywhere we can see this? Oh, there you go. Look at that. He just linked it in time. So we can see it here. The names that we have, this is for our audio listeners: Rops, Madden, Yakinda, Twists, and Stown. And the potential options for STYKO to pick between are will improve the most, best mechanics, annoying to face, would like to play with, underrated or overrated. That last one there, I guess you get to define. So you can start wherever you want here, Martin.
Yeah, okay. I think this one's really easy. So I'm gonna go with my teammate first, Madden.
Okay.
I think since he's the least improved probably on these teams. Okay, Yekender is questionable, but probably Madan is basically the least experienced here. I'm gonna say that he will improve the most.
Okay.
I don't know if I have to do something or you're
You
gonna.
just have to click the
option, I believe.
There's another link. You use this.
All right. I got it. Madan, okay,
Yeah.
will improve the most.
Okay.
For the ropes, it's obvious. Best mechanics. It's the
Ooh.
best mechanics probably in the game that he has. For Yekender, I would
But
love
like
to play
better
with
mechanics,
him.
better
Yeah, sorry.
mechanics than twists. That's a
Yeah,
bold statement.
definitely. No,
Okay.
definitely. That's no question even. Ropes is the best mechanics in the game. When it comes to the rifling, 100%. And we're comparing riflers here, so I'm just gonna go with the Ropes best mechanics. Yekender is definitely a guy who I'd like to play with. I love to play Counter-Strike 5v4. For last two guys down, I'm gonna say he is okay. Twist is annoying to face. I don't face him that often. Right now I might, since he's on the European team. So Twist is pretty annoying to face, especially since he's anchoring on some sides, and I'm on the extremities as well. So we face each other a lot. And Stown is definitely underrated or overrated. It feels like a lot of times whenever Heroic is not playing, they forgot Stown is on the lineup. And then when they're playing, he's shining so much that he's like considered a god. And then he eventually again goes into the limbo that everyone forgets about his playstyle and whatsoever. So he's either underrated or overrated in a lot of eyes. If Heroic is doing good, he's underrated because he's carrying them. Other way around, I meant. He's overrated because it feels like he's always putting numbers in. And when they're not playing, he's underrated because it's just the way it is. It gets overshadowed, it feels like.
Okay. So do you think Stown is where would you put Stown in like the hierarchy of Danish Counter-Strike? How high up are we talking? I know I'm asking you to do like a impromptu ranking in your head on the spot.
Like a top 8 player.
In Denmark. Okay.
All right. Top
in the
top
world.
8 to top 10. Yeah, in Denmark.
Okay.
In Denmark.
Yeah, there's a shitload of good players there. So I was like top 8. I was like, holy shit, that's but really when you think, that makes sense.
I mean, he's probably worse than all of Astralis players. Probably Blame F is better as well. And who else? Maybe I would actually play actually a Config and Stown are pretty similar to my but I would actually put Assetag above Stown just for the sake of not Cloud9 run, but the Astralis run. So,
okay.
Probably all right. Somewhere there.
I'm surprised, like with what I have seen Yekender do, and I know that it's only in the realms of like online Counter-Strike. I am surprised that you didn't put him as the best mechanics, because the shit that this kid that I'm seeing, maybe I got some rose-colored glasses on, looks insane. But to be fair, when I first started watching Rops, it was like the first season I ever did working Pro League. So we're going back a long time ago. And I literally just sat in the Go TV watching him because I was blown away at just how procedural he was.
And the thing about Robs is he has his routines, which he never forgets. And he's also insane at KZ, which to me is a part of mechanics. So.
Okay.
I think Robs is just too precise not to fit this, to be honest. Like Yekender is just crazy good and still crazy skilled, but I think like pure mechanics, I think go Robs' way, yeah.
It's a hard list that Prof will assembled here for you.
I'd honestly put Yekender as annoying to face because there's no way anybody likes playing against him. There's no way.
Maybe people like getting occasional entry kills.
Yeah, sure, but then like two rounds later, you just get headbutted by him.
True. All right, Prof, we got anything else on this one before we move forward?
No, I think this played out pretty well. Happy with how I set it up.
All right. We've got a bit of success with this. And all right, we're going to move into some leftover topics and questions. So we'll jump into the questions from viewers at home. We have a bunch of them. We've got some funny ones. We've got some standard ones. And one that is being asked by Setup is one that I wanted to ask. He said, why did he start a YouTube content on his channel? Why did he start the YouTube content on his channel? I really enjoy the POV he has. So we're just wondering, why did you want to do that?
So I just wanted to build something as a side project for myself. So social media is obviously a big part for players to put their logo out, the brand. And YouTube is a platform that I've never used before because I feel like I don't have too much, of an interesting day-to-day life where I'm just stuck behind the computer. So I realized I have to do a content that I'm actively doing while I'm working, which is during the practice. If I have some clips, I'm gonna clip them and put them in a highlight reel. And then if I'm actually playing the game, it would be nice for people to see to see how I play basically in my environment with my mouse pad, mouse, keyboard, stuff like this. Because whenever I was starting with Counter-Strike and I wanted to go pro, I was looking on YouTube for a footage from a LAN, like people warming up on the empty server or with bots. And I wanted to see what they do, how they move their mouse, what's their routine before the game, and maybe people can catch up on these things right while watching POV. It is no extra effort for me to do this content. All I do is basically press record button, and obviously then the post production is coming into play. But for me personally, it is like easiest thing I could do, and it can help some people getting into top level and maybe copy my style, maybe adjust some things.
Great. I'd link the YouTube channel again in the chat for everybody. So go follow STYKO. We've got a couple of lads we've had on the show who have been working on the YouTube stuff. Kjaerbye was on here as well. I think Apex was doing something with it as well. It's good that people are doing more of that. I know that sentiment you're talking about, right? You get questions of how do you hold your mouse, or like how far away from the monitor are you and stuff, and having an insight on that. Like, it's not like it was in the old days where we would go to the LANs and you could literally stand behind the row of PCs and watch the people doing it all live, right? We barely get that these days. All right, which one's here, Prof, will tickle in your fancy? Anything juicy?
The last one was interesting. You said you wanted to become an all-around player. Does that mean you're willing to become an IGL one day? I think it's just like a curious take. I think it goes back to like the Cloud9 era when you kind of moved from the full support to more of a star role, then NoChance and stuff like that. So is IGLing something you're open to?
Yeah, that's a good question, because IGLing is something I want to avoid, but every coach that coached me for a longer period of time said following, and that's Jonta, LMBT, and now Devilwalk. They all said that one day I will be the in-game leader, just for the sake how I'm taking over sometimes, the theory that we have on the empty server. I want to explain things to my teammates, how I want a certain strat to be run. I saw it on a demo and I try to explain it thoroughly, so people not only know their role and not know the roles of their teammates, they understand why we are doing it. And this is something that I feel like then that run, or that dry running the strat, and that strat itself in the game is much more successful when we all know why are we doing it. So these things are little, glimpses of IGLing that I want to perfect. But right now, I feel not very comfortable IGLing. For example, in my team, there was an option that we would IGL right now, one of us, and we pick up some rifler. But the thing is, I would have to give up my spot probably for IGLing. I don't want to in a lurk position to IGL. I want to be in the middle of the pack, and that would mean restructuralizing whole FPX roster right now, because I would have to swap roles, and I feel like I'm doing my role pretty good. I'm probably one of the best in the world. There are some people in front of me, obviously, which I look up to, but I don't think we could fill that gap right now with the players we have.
I think to piggyback off the back of that, there's a question here that is: do you still consider yourself the star player of FPX? Like you just talked about your role. Like what would you define your role in the team as?
I think there's not enough space for me to be a star player. Not in a sense that people are taking the space off of me, but I think like every one of us in this team can have a game that is just like we're carrying, like we're playing lights out and hitting shots and doing good calls. So it's not a star in the sense of a simple that he will consistently have all the time good stats and being in impactful positions, but certain things like if we're doing apps pop on Inferno and I'm an apps player, in that strat I'm gonna go first out apps. Whereas if we're doing B execute and I'm an apps player, I'm gonna go last in trying to trade people. So it depends. Like we can't build a role around we can build a superstar player around in our system just because we have to have a play style. And if we would like to go B, then obviously I'm gonna have probably a little bit better game that if we are not forcing A apps that much, which I'm playing. If OP is posted up, I'm just gonna die and hope for my teammate to refrag. So the stats differ in our team a lot on the way we play the game.
Okay. Yeah, good answer then. Do we have anything else, Prof or Strike, we wanted to follow up with? My memory's getting worse the older I get.
No, there's just there's one question that I kind of liked for pretty obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Any chance to create a Czechoslovakian team in the future? Obviously, this is something that you've talked about before.
Right. I always pretty much get this question. If I'm ever willing to come back and create a Czechoslovakian team. I never said no to this. I always said that there has to be a right time and right disposal of players and talent and organization for it to work. Lately, we've seen the rise of sinners, which is great. But I'm afraid that there's going to be a skill ceiling that they're going to hit soon enough and that they're going to struggle to advance the rankings. So it's not like if for example tomorrow, hypothetically speaking, I'm released from FPX and I would have to go to Czechoslovakian team, I don't want to just jump into the sinners and tell them, hey guys, I'm here, you want to pick me up and let's play and win something. It has to be totally like thought through process of creating a team, and right now I don't see a point of doing that because there's just not enough drive in the scene just yet. Maybe in a few years it will be, but 2 years ago I didn't even think there would be a Czechoslovakian team in the top 30, and here we are there. So it's all advancing pretty fast, and I'm not saying no to this once again. I'm just saying it's highly unlikely.
What do you make of Oscar making this comeback?
I think he kind of saved that lineup where he just boosted them on an insane basis. He's carrying a lot of games, and even on the maps that he was struggling before, he's doing really well now. Like Vertigo, he kind of grew up to the point. I mean, grew onto the map. If that makes sense, he started to play really good on it, and but at the same time, it's a double-edged knife, or how you say it in English, where I think he is also one of the reasons why they're not going to advance that much further. I don't see obviously inside the team, but I can see that happening, that there's going to be certain things that he should be overcoming and teaching these young people to overcome, but I'm not sure if he's able to. He wasn't, when in Mousesports, when we played together, he wasn't really a teacher figure or something like that. So I think he is struggling with the content, like explaining the concept of tier 1 Counter-Strike to them, and that's why maybe they're failing.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not failing in a way, but you know what I mean.
I mean, they're plateauing at this point for sure. Like they definitely need to find like a new thing that's going to propel them forward. At this point, they're just kind of stuck at the same place, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've had some talks with Oscar, and he said that he's trying to explain, like, especially like working with NeoFrag as somebody who's obviously like kind of touted as the next Oscar.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. He's definitely brought something to them, and he's trying to teach them. But I agree with you that I'm not sure he has the personality for it.
Yeah. Their page on HLTV.org looks a lot better than the Extremer page, so I think that's one positive.
They beat Extreme even like a couple of days ago or something.
Yeah, it was a 3-map affair. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, bloody hell. What if you joined that team, STYKO? How high do you reckon they could go? Throw you in there.
Sinners?
Yeah.
I think we would do worse, to be honest.
That's a pretty good answer.
I think they're pretty good mix of players. I think if I throw myself in, I don't see first of all a player that I would throw myself in.
Okay.
I mean, it would have to be somebody like Shock if you're thinking about roles at this point, right?
Yeah, but then I mean, he's supporting, right? He's not even anchoring. I think ZK is lurking / anchoring.
Actually, yeah, right. They kind of
so I
switched
would
it up
have
now.
to go instead of ZK, which I think he's doing really good job in. I'm not sure if he's still in game leading. Is he?
There was a time where he took it. I'm not sure if that's still the case.
Then if I would have to in game lead, I'm definitely convinced that we would be below Extreme matter of days. That's an achievement right there.
That's
I have one last question.
Go for it.
Just there's that podcast that you did with DDK, and it was a lot about like personal improvement and stuff like that, and where you went into a lot of details about like how you journal, how you like log stuff, what you do to like just to improve yourself as a player, as a person, but primarily as a player. Did you have any new like how do you like discoveries recently about like what influences your game? And like for people that are interested about it, they can go and watch the whole podcast because it's good, but just like new stuff, what's going on?
Yeah, I treated myself after the New Year's and I joined FPX, and I bought this piece of tech, which is the ring, and it monitors my sleep, and it's actually really good. It's quite pricey, so it's not for everyone. I'm pretty sure if you have a smartwatch, maybe you can use that to track your sleep. It's kind of okay as well, but this one gets really deep. And okay, wait, this was weird. This piece of tech is really important for me right now, because this is part of my morning routine, that I wake up and I update it instantly to see how my sleep was, even if I feel rested. And the app shows I had a shitty REM, let's say, sleep, and I woke up numerous times during the night, and I don't remember waking up, but you do for a couple of seconds, minutes, whatever. So you will know that by the end of the day you will be extra tired. But if the app shows you that you slept really good and you had a good sleep hygiene and good cycle, I usually do better during those days in my officials as well. So you try to negate blue light before going to sleep. You try to negate, like, don't drink coffee, right? Few hours before you go to bed. You avoid alcohol before going to bed, etc., etc. So these little things can help you out, and this is definitely something I can recommend. Maybe you can find similar piece of tech for lower amount of price, but same effect, and just keep trying out these things. Maybe it will not affect your life at all, but my quality of life actually increased.
Okay, interesting. I sleep like shit and drink coffee right before bed. So look at me. Don't end up like me. End up like STYKO. Get yourself a nice pricey ring, and it's not even an engagement ring. That's interesting.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're a bit young for that, probably. 25. I don't know. What's going on over there?
I'm gonna be too young. Let's leave it at that, okay?
All right. We can get you a dating profile going with Strikers one. We can make it like we can expand it, right? We can work on that.
Yeah, we can do another jingle. Striker and STYKOs.
There you go. We can send them out on double dates. Like, not at the moment. We've got to wait for fucking the whole COVID thing to fix.
Online double dates.
There you
go. On Zoom. We can meet at the border. Not cross it and just hold each other's hands.
Oh dear.
No, he meant the two of us with two more other people, not the two of us together.
Yeah, but you guys can go on it. That works too, you know. We can do any form of matchmaking around here. All right, STYKO, it has been, I've kept you for half an hour longer than I should have. So right now, I want to open up the microphone to you to say whatever you want to the fans, to the organization, to whatever. You don't even have to say anything if you don't want. But this is your chance now to say whatever.
All right. I could just end the call right now, but I'm gonna gather my last energy to speak a little bit. Thank you for having me, first of all, you three, and Lucas as well in the background. Thanks for chat, for sending the questions, and also on the Twitter, etc., etc.
Chat.
Oh, I thought it said chat. I was like, that definitely wasn't me, dude. Don't give me props for anything.
Not everything's about you, chat. So.
Yeah, fuck. There you go. You're going to my narcissism.
Yeah, right. I mean, thanks for just inviting me and talking through these things, because it was quite interesting, especially talking about Cloud9 and the EPL itself. I feel like it's gonna be a rough time for us in EPL, but we might only surprise right now. So we're trying to get our team together and gel, So this is hopefully the start of the FPX that I mentioned earlier in the podcast. Like, by the end of the summer, we hit top 10, and then the major, and then we meet here and we talk about successful 2021.
Okay, that's a nice note to leave it on right there. So we'll close it down. Thank you to STYKO for joining us. And thank you again to Parimatch and Xtrfy for supporting HLTV Confirmed. Once again, search HLTV Confirmed on YouTube to find the VOD. It'll be up in about 24 to 48 hours. Anchor.fm/HLTV for all the audio needs, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. There's a bunch more. The next show we'll be doing will be on Tuesday, the 6th of April, same time. Well, 8 p.m. CEST. We're in the daylight savings world now. And thank you for all tuning in, and good night.
Add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets guaranteed.
Fist bumps go to the teammates.
I wanna see you rolling fast. Win the round. Win the game.
Parimatch, your esports teammate.